Good evening.
Hey, how's it going, Future Shock?
How's it going, Truthspoon? It is all good. It's all good. It's a little bit toasty. But yeah, England has reached
Yeah,
22 degrees. So obviously that means
solar
that,
activity, bro.
well, yes, I think we'll get into a little bit of that. Did you watch the video? How was it? We'll get into that in a second, I suppose. How was your weekend generally?
What did you call me?
I said we'll get into the solar activity thing in a minute. I was just saying, how was your weekend?
Oh yeah, um, is it the weekend? It's like it's an eternal weekend for me, really.
Yes, you're a man of
I'm living in that sort of fortuitous, like, don't have to go to work, and it's like an eternal weekend. So how was the weekend? Like it's just it's an eternal moment in the light, really. That's all I can say. Because without going to work and having to check in and stuff, I can just like live in the eternal moment. You did
well,
ask me. You asked me. Well, how was my weekend?
yeah, when that would be ideal, really. But yeah, what can I say? You're not leisurely though, are you? You're still researching. You're still getting your head down, as it were.
My head down. I wish I could get my head down. Yeah, but I can't get my head down at the moment. But I am
Yeah,
doing some research. Yeah.
but yeah. So yeah, it's been for me. It's kind of the same for me, except that I do have the 9 to 5. So like, but if I'm not doing anything at the weekend, I'll still be doing some work, like music work or research and stuff for this show. So yeah, that's kind of just things that I'm interested in doing, regardless of whether it's a Tuesday or a Sunday or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. So what's going on? What's going on in your world?
Well, at the moment, I've been doing a little bit of looking into. Obviously, we're going to get into it in a little bit. But yeah, I've been doing some mad research into some CIA experimentation with remote viewing. That's something I'll talk about in a little bit, which is some craziness, which I didn't really know too much about, but it's just sort of blown my mind a little bit. And also the little Nazca mummies I was showing you backstage. They're
What
quite
did I say? What was that? Little what?
the little Nazca mummies that I was showing you
Oh yeah.
backstage, which we'll get into
You're
in
getting your mic's getting a bit chopped up. I don't know why, but I'm getting choppy mic from you.
Okay, I mean my
Okay. That's why I had to ask you about NASCAR mummies, but is it NASCAR? Is NASCAR a formula? Isn't that an American driving thing?
you have
NASCAR?
to be careful how you pronounce it. Yeah, Nazca with a Z. They're not Nazca mummies. That would be quite dangerous to put a mummy in a NASCAR vehicle and send it around a track at 150 mile an hour. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you stand back and are happy with losing
People
losing
get
quite
hurt.
money.
Those who are standing close to the apex. You know what I mean? Like they're asking for trouble.
Oh yeah, I mean, see, I can see actually looking at my mic, it's not like coming up like it usually properly comes up. Is it? Is
Are
it
you not
sounding?
coming up? Are you not coming up?
Do you know what I saw actually? I was just out there. I saw some graffiti, and the graffiti said MDMA is halal.
Ha! Really?
I was like, that's an interest. I should have taken that. And it's on
Wow.
it's on the shutter of a super drug. It's on a super drug shutter. They've shut the shop, so the shutter's down.
Super drug MDMA. Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's quite
if only it wasn't
You
possible.
can paint that. Where do you think that's quite a good graffiti? Where's that?
So that is in the high street of Wood Green, as an epicenter for diversity in North London. But yeah, so it's it's just across the road from where I was standing. I was like, that's some excellent graffiti, I must say.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, there's like I think there's been reported, but there's these East London like cannabis dens, and they're all run by Bangladeshis, and it's all like Muslim people, you know.
Right. Okay. So that does seem to. I haven't heard about them. It does seem a bit haram, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, that's interesting, but like you live in Morocco or Egypt and they all smoke hash out there. Hey, I'm not promoting it, but I'm just saying that's what they do. But it's quite an sort of example of diversity in London. I actually find it quite exciting. these sort of cannabis dens. I mean, it's like sort of kind of illicit, you know. You have to know someone to be let into it, but it's all run by Bangladeshis, and they're all, you know, there's no alcohol, but they're all like Muslims and hanging out, and it's like they're playing. There's like a lot of pool tables, but you get a lot of ladies there, so it's quite interesting, you know. That you say like MDMA, you say it's halal. Well, the graffiti says so. But yeah, in East London, I mean, thing is, the fact is, a lot of Muslims do smoke that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their religions are.
Yeah, is it halal? You tell me, right? You tell me, Future Shock. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I'm not an Islamic scholar, unfortunately, although I have been offered by multiple people to read the Quran. And I did actually have a copy of the Quran at one point, which was an ex-girlfriend's copy, which I also never read. So yeah, that's about as close as I've got to dealing with a religious text of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, I think technically, probably. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but in Morocco, in the Rif Valley in North Morocco, it's quite famously that's where all the hash is grown, and it's like one of the absolute fucking poorest areas in the whole of Western and Northern Africa. And because I've been there in a car, it's absolute Mad Max. It's so crazy, but it's it's like a dry kind of, it's not desert, but it's like arid and dry, but it's like, it's mountains and hills. It's so Mad Max. The Rif, have you heard about the valley?
What's it called? Sorry.
It's called Rif. You know, it's called Rif. It's called the Rif in Morocco.
Rif Valley in Morocco.
Yeah, it's Rif. Yeah. Where all the hash is grown, bro.
Oh, Red Valley. You mean Red Valley?
It's called Rif Mountains. Rif Mountains.
Rif Mountains.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've not heard of it before. No.
It's like, okay. Well, it's like where to go hash, but like I went through there once, and it's like. But what I'm trying to say is that they were going to legalize cannabis, and they were going to farm it. Can you imagine? There was all of these poor farmers. They would be like so enfranchised and become rich because all of the pharmaceutical connections to cannabis and that kind of thing. You with me, Mo?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find. Let's see. Let me have a look here. Just found a picture of the Rif.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it like came to a vote, and I was actually in the country, and it's like the one thing you just vote, change your country. Maybe they'd be like swamped by like Californian dope companies or weed companies, and the EU would tax them, but this bandit country, and there was a chance for them to legalize cannabis and start producing it, and like Morocco would be like the number one producer. It already is, but they'd be producing pharmaceutical cannabis. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's a big market, you know what I mean?
Interesting.
But they voted against it, so it's like your point about MDMA being halal. It's like, unfortunately, Muslims don't see it that way. Because they could radicalize. No, I mean that's the wrong word, but they could turn the country around. They could have, you know, investment and wealth and top-notch farming. But yeah, so yeah, I'm just riffing on what you came out with, man, because it's quite interesting. But no, apparently for Moroccans, no, it's not.
It looks quite nice. The Rif Mountains there.
Yeah, man. Well, it ain't nice. It's fucking dangerous, man. Like I was driving there with my sister. It's really dangerous because it's like loads of people just trying to run you off the road to sell you drugs. It's like it's Mad Max. I'm not even joking. Yeah,
and it's
like,
right on the coast as well.
Sees you as a foreigner. They race to catch you, and it's like James Bond. Like they're neck and neck on the windy, fucking dangerous roads because they want to sell you drugs. And they're like, "Come on, pull over, buy drugs, buy like 2 kilos and." Illegally, that's because there's a lot of the illegal. Because me and my sister was like approached in where was it, Marrakesh? People trying to like make us into drug mules, you know. Because there's a lot of, if you want, I'm not saying anyone wants to make a few £10,000, but you go to Morocco, there's a lot of opportunities to do things you shouldn't do.
But that's the thing; it's not even that much money, is it? Do you know what I mean? Why people risk it?
So much time. I mean, it depends how much you carry in it, but you know, but you just don't do it. But yeah, we was like cool. We was in a bar, like just talking to this guy, and he's trying to involve us in the international hash smuggling trade, you know. But that's what happens in bars in Marrakesh. You got to be careful.
So is that blue? Because it's got quite a blue. That picture there, it's like got quite a blue.
That's Chef Shawan. That's Morocco, right?
So is it
that
that kind of
Morocco?
blue? Is that being done with a bit of like Photoshop or something?
No, I mean there is a blue city called Chef Shawan in Morocco.
Very nice.
It's famous blue. I think Eric Clapton. I think he bought. Did he Eric Clapton get somewhere there? I think so. He did. There was a big thing about Chef Shawan. You know how it is when like there's a tourist destination, it becomes the thing that no one knows about. But Eric Clapton moved to Chef Shawan, yeah. So I think you're showing like the blue is Chef Shawan. It's in Morocco.
And he would have been in there somewhere.
I don't know.
Sweeping up or something and playing the guitar and sweeping his driveway and stuff. That's interesting. Very hot in Morocco. Then what's like the top temperatures that it gets to in Morocco? I'm
gonna like it's about 40 degrees, bro. You know.
43. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, but the coast is quite cool. By the Atlantic Ocean, it's quite mellow.
Yeah, because you're by the coast, aren't you? So at least you get like
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, well, speaking of heat, so did you get a chance to watch the Stefan Burn's newest video about incoming solar flares?
No, you got it before me. Do you want to tell me about it, or do you want to put it on?
I didn't watch it. Sorry, I thought you were watching it in the few minutes we were taking before the show. So,
but listen, I double checked it, and the fact is, there don't seem to be any immediate solar flares coming right now. So, I did check it.
So the end of the world has been avoided for now.
Possibly.
Good. So if I had some
just do the daily earthquake check, and you see if we're still alive.
So they've been sort of dissipating, kind of like since. Okay, so this is because one of his points was that it was proceeding towards Yellowstone, wasn't it? That he was worried about.
Yeah, so if you look, we are now the 15th of June. So the last earthquake, 15th of June, 7:35. I don't know what time zone that is, but 5.6 from Peru.
That's in Callao, in Peru.
But I would like to say, I mean, the thing is, Greece and Turkey and Idaho don't seem to be getting hit. And obviously, Japan and the South America, because they're the fault lines, aren't they? They're the key fault lines of the Earth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if that starts like the Ring of Fire, so yeah. So yeah, it seems to be cooling down. It's all over.
We've been given a reprieve for now, then I suppose.
Maybe. Depends what you.
Because last time we were talking, it wasn't such good news. It wasn't looking like such good news. But yeah, let's see what the sun has in store for us in the next few weeks. Then. Because
well, it depends. Do you fear death? You know.
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, not particularly. I guess my sort of view on it would be like, no, but not yet. Like, I wouldn't like it to happen yet. Do you know what I mean?
Why?
Because I would still like to live a bit of life. I wouldn't particularly like to necessarily perish right now or tomorrow or something like that. But I still like to live a little bit of like 3D human life before entering back into the 4D realm.
Yeah, but what if we were just wiped out in a hot plasma cloud of painless death? Just we didn't even feel it, and we were just gone.
Yeah, like
you don't have to get old, right? You don't have to worry about your pension. You don't have to think about your mortgage payments or the bills, and you're just gone, and then that's it. Would you make a deal like that? Get it over with, yeah?
Probably. I mean, yeah, but like, what I wonder as well is like just what happens I mean, I guess things that we believe are important now aren't important when we go back to that more pure reality because I've always thought like, what would I feel like I don't have to go to sleep? That would be a bit weird. But then is it weird? Because I guess there's a lot of other things going on when you go back into that realm that mean that things like sleep and other earthly things like that are not really important at all or relevant, obviously.
Yeah, but you're not answering my question.
which was
like instant death with a hot, fiery, plasmic nuclear cloud. Because that's what we're asking for. That's happening, man. Look at the fucking world, man. We're gonna fight with fucking Iran, man. I tell you what. Listen, where I live in southwest London, there's jets overhead all the time. Seriously, you've no idea how ready this country is for war, and it's on the fucking edge of happening. I'm not even joking. Do you know what I mean? You just get ready for nukes, bro. Just saying, get ready. Get ready for a hot blast of fucking nuclear hairdryer in your face. You know?
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
Death, bro, you know?
It's interesting how, like, suddenly after so many years of talking about Hamas and having, you know, civilian shields, Israel's doing exactly the same thing and then complaining when Iran is hit.
No, it's a no-brainer, man. Israel is a mad dog, you know?
So, okay,
totally that. I mean, that's like my political opinion, but, yeah, it's not really a radical opinion.
Well, look at this. I mean, it's the only country in the world, as far as I'm aware, it's the only country in the world that has something like the Samson option. You know what the Samson option is, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Take everyone out.
Like, take everyone out before you get taken out, yeah.
And like Netanyahu's already alluded
to nuclear blackmail. That's what that is. It's nuclear blackmail.
Netanyahu alluded to it last week, didn't he? When he was saying if we,
what did he say?
He said basically, if we go down, you're all going down with us. He literally said, paraphrasing, but he was basic. That was basically what he was saying.
I didn't see that, but that doesn't surprise me at all. He said it in coded words or coded message, right?
It wasn't even that because he was so obvious that it reminded me about the Samson option, which I've forgotten about, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, they have this thing where they're just going to nuke everyone, well, they're going to take everyone out, aren't they?
I know, they're mad, man.
It is kind of crazy. They're the only country that will potentially do that, and it's a tad worrying. God's chosen people, though, obviously. So, do you want to play a bit of Stefan then, and I'll talk a bit about my remote viewing stuff because I think you'll be interested in that.
Yeah, I'll be interested in that. So Stefan Burns. I mean, listen, let me be honest about Stefan Burns. He's kind of like he's monitoring the sun. He's really on it, but I think he gets a little bit like he's like waiting for the end of the world a little bit. So I'll just play this. Is it coming through? Yeah. Okay, let's bang him. Just for a few minutes. Yeah.
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns. Breaking news: it looks like we are about to have a significant solar flare or multiple from Sunspot Group 4114. These are explosions on the sun, many times the size of our planet. And what's significant about this is 4114 has been growing rapidly, and it's about to be in the Earth direct strike zone, which is this central meridian right there. So it's approaching that very quickly. There's a bit of a zone actually around that called the Earth strike zone. And if it does decide to have a big explosion, there's a lot of factors indicating that it's going to, then that solar storm that it launches, this coronal mass ejection, or effectively a giant blob of plasma, the fourth state of matter, the most vibrational and highly energized state of matter, will be launched directly towards the Earth. And when that passes by the Earth, that is a solar storm impact, and that could trigger a significant geomagnetic storm. And so I'm watching this very closely, but if you just watch this video here, our 131 angstrom imagery of the sun.
Okay, listen, I'll leave it there. But thing is, are you still there, Future Shock?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm muting you. Are you there?
Yeah, you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, so, I mean, Stefan Burns, he's kind of like, I think things are cooling down, but we are still at solar max 25. Okay?
Yeah.
But I just don't quite think the end of the world is going to happen today or tomorrow. All right? So how do you feel? You got a reprieve now? You feel happy?
I feel reassured, but I'm kind of also strangely apathetic.
Apathetic?
Tinged.
So you're ready to get blown away in a hot nuclear ball of plasma and radioactive fallout? Like me, I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Well, I'm pretty sure neither of us will really know too much about it, and I suppose that's the best.
That's what I'm hoping, yeah.
That's the most you can hope for, really, is not to like really...
Exactly. I know, right?
Well, it doesn't seem like a slow process when it happens. Put it that way.
I don't know. I had a dream the other day where I did this. I was in a nuclear explosion, and it was like a little bit frightening. But I just thought, actually, no, it's just like a nice hot air. It's like a bit of hot wind. It's like a bit of solar wind. It's like, yeah, fuck it. You don't know. Just get blown out. But you've got to make sure you're near the epicenter, because if you're not, you're going to die of lingering radiation sickness. So where are we going to get fucked in London? Where are they going to destroy us? Because the way this country has behaved and promoting all these wars and absolutely fucking in Ukraine, it's fucking terrible. We are just. Listen. I live here in southwest London. Jets overhead all the time. It's like fucking war footing. It's ridiculous, man. I'm kind of pissed off. You know what I mean?
I have helicopters mainly where I am.
Yeah.
I think
I've got jets. Scrambling jets. They're watching the skies for like Russian bombers and stuff, you know.
Well, they had one, didn't they? They wandered in. Was it last year? Was it the year before? I lose kind of like track of time a little bit. But yeah, they spotted one over our. That was sort of illegally over our airspace. Wasn't there a Russian jet about a year ago that caused a little bit of kerfuffle? But now we're at a whole new level of situation.
Yeah, I mean, have you checked the nuclear clock lately? I mean, what time are we on now? You know what I mean?
What's
That's
the
always the
nuclear
thing,
clock?
right?
Is this something that is this some
Don't
literal?
tell me you've never heard of the Doomsday clock.
Well, I know that in
Seriously?
5 billion years we're fucked, but I mean,
No, not that. No, man. You missed the Doomsday clock. I guess it was big in the 80s because it was about Cold War, but apparently it's 89 seconds to midnight, and that's like at midnight it's nuclear holocaust.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me you never heard of the Doomsday clock, bro.
I may have
Seriously?
heard of the Doomsday clock.
May have heard of it. Okay. I wonder what like the closest time to midnight is. It's like I'm gonna have to check that. You never heard of that. All right, listen, I'm gonna check that out. You give us the thing about remote viewing. I've got a thing about aliens, but you wanna
Well, yeah, the
deliver
remote
something.
viewing thing. You know, this was something I'd heard a bit about and thought it sounded kind of like bollocks, to be fair. But also, to be fair, I hadn't looked into it too much. But some of the stories I've been checking out have just been ridiculous. So I'll sort of give you a quick background about. So remote viewing, for what people who may not have heard of it, is like people having the ability to kind of like use extrasensory perception or psychic ability of some kind to sort of see what is in other rooms or even in other countries, or even more than that, as I'll get into in a second. I'll give a quick sort of background on it, how it sort of like came about, and these techniques were deemed so significant by the CIA once they got wind of it, that they set up a program called Operation Stargate, which essentially recruited and trained. Yes, you can actually train. This isn't some random medium type capability. And with tests, the efficacy has been repeatedly proven. I mean, over decades of verified, successful, frankly, unbelievable research findings. So this whole thing started in like 1971. There was a physicist called Hal Puthoff, who was at the time like just researching energy and propulsion at Stanford Uni, like some genius guy who already, even as a student, had a patent for propulsion inventions and had published a book about quantum electronics. So he sort of thought already at this point he was mastering the molecular type stuff, and then he started thinking about what is consciousness. And so he sort of began like delegating a portion of his working mind to this. And he read a paper from a CIA polygrapher, called Steve Baxter. Now, Steve Baxter had been connecting polygraphs to plants, and he found that plants emit the same patterns as humans, normal like speech, quote unquote, speech-like patterns. And he found if he did things like threaten the plants, he got the same polygraphic pattern response as you do if you threaten humans. So Puthoff is reading all this and thinks, and starts thinking, this is interesting. What if we get like two cultures of plants, separate them miles apart, zap the local culture and see if the other one responds? So it's basically, because of this idea, he starts connecting with Baxter, they start talking, blah, blah, blah. And by a very like mad chance coincidence, this guy Baxter goes to a cocktail party. He runs into this guy called Ingo Swann. Now, this guy, So this guy Ingo Swann becomes like one of the central figures to this whole remote viewing history and sort of the embryo of it. And Swann claimed to be able to do these remote viewing. And there was actually a paper already published where he'd actually affected temperature readings in separate rooms. So he'd made the temperature in other rooms go up and down. So anyway, so these guys basically all ended up together, and they started doing these experiments, and this is how they came to the attention of the CIA. So the CIA kind of found out what they were doing, and because Hal Puthoff, this physicist I talked about, got Swann in and got him to do all these mad experiments, kind of like he was able to change the oscillation of electromagnetic waves around a sort of electrode or electron, or something like this. They were getting to do all kinds of mad things that no one could understand. And when the CIA found out about it, they rocked up and gave them a knock on the door. And they were like, look, we know the Soviets are doing this thing called remote viewing, this kind of extrasensory stuff, and we do not understand it at all. We found out what you're doing and we need your help. So it was kind of like they recruited them basically, and they started doing like just the sort of things you would guess they would do, like hiding things in other rooms, writing things in envelopes, blah, blah, blah. Swann was getting it all right all the time. Once he looked inside a safe, he was able to look inside a safe in a different building and write down all the names of all the project files in the safe, which was later verified by the CIA and also freaked the fuck out of them. So they were moving on to different and all this stuff. Like one of the craziest, they then started training other people in this as well. And one of the craziest ones of that was in 1979. There was a guy called Joe McMoneagle who'd said that he'd remote viewed inside a Soviet hangar and seen an insanely submarine being built, which was nearly finished. They told this to the Navy, and bear in mind, this is the CIA communicating with the Navy, not just random people. And the US Navy laughed it off and said, like, this is all bollocks and ridiculous and stuff. And then a few months later, September 1980, US spy satellites returned images for the first time of a new size class of submarine, which later became known as the Typhoon. So this stuff is like seriously crazy, and it seems like there's some it's very obviously legitimate. Whether it's to do with quantum entanglement being wider than we realize, I don't know. But in my opinion, one of the most amazing viewings by Swann was in 1973. Again, the CIA ran a test with him, and they asked him to describe a target, and all they told him was that it was a planet. So he correctly identified it as Jupiter. You could say, okay, there's like a 1 in 8 chance of that, right? But he also said there was a faint ring around Jupiter, which is not something that had been observed. 6 years later, Voyager 1 flies past and spots a faint ring around Jupiter. So this is all kind of pretty crazy, and I didn't know anything about all this. Well, I knew of remote viewing a little bit, but I didn't know the specific research that had been done. I mean, Swann goes on to say some other real mad stuff where it gets a lot weirder. Well, like in another CIA experiment in the 70s, he claimed to see a base on the other side of the moon, and even described viewing humanoid beings on the surface. He said they were like in groups wandering around performing tasks. And this is where it gets really weird, because he then said he sensed that they all suddenly had become aware of his remote viewing, and he said that he suffered a psychic backlash and was energetically and psychically attacked by them and had to stop the viewing. And then after that, completely refused to do anything to do with remote viewing the moon ever again. So it's kind of crazy, man. And the thing is, it's also worth noting that this guy, Hal Puthoff, the physicist who kind of started all this, despite all his expertise and genius in the field of like electricity, he actually believes it's not brainwave related, and like he hasn't really been able to quantify what it is. They did various experiments like where they put remote viewers in submarines, thinking they conduct seawater would act like a shield, but it still worked perfectly. In fact, that was based on an experiment in the 80s by Stephen Schwartz, where remote viewers accurately predicted shipwreck and also discovered Cleopatra's Carrier.
Your mic's got a bit funny, but carry on. But you went underwater, but you're okay. Carry on.
At the appropriate time. But yeah, if you can hear me properly, I'm kind of just.
Yeah, you just went underwater for that just back then.
So yeah, I mean, they also like remote viewed Cleopatra's palace in 1983, and it wasn't actually discovered until 1996 properly by a marine archaeologist, Frank Goggio. So 13 years later, they discovered the palace in the place that the remote viewer has said that it was. So the whole thing is fucking crazy, man. I mean, that Dark Side of the Moon one gets me. I mean, that's the same guy who saw a ring around Jupiter. He's saying there's a base on the moon with beings roaming around. I mean, it's fucking weird shit, man. I don't know how much of it you've really heard about or what you think of it. Like,
well, I mean, I think a lot of these things, it's like how much of it is like imagination and how much is the vision, because it's so hard. It's not just remote viewing, but it's kind of like mediumship. It's kind of like witchcraft in a way, because it's like projecting your consciousness. It's not exactly scientific, right? You'd agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of like unquantifiable. It's like we just don't know what is going on, essentially.
Yeah, but like, is it more in touch with witchcraft or is it more scientific? Because that's what do you think? You know,
well, I mean, Hal Potoff's idea of entanglement being a little bit. I think what he's trying to say is, or like the closest explanation he can give to it is that quantum entanglement is a bit sort of like more spread out than we might think, and this would allow for some people to be able to do this. In fact, I say some people, they were actually trained. Bear in mind, they were actually training people who apparently had no awareness they could do this to be able to successfully do this. So it's a strange one because it seems to be backed by a lot of empirical evidence, yet we don't actually know what it is. We still can't actually quantify it.
Okay, so all right, so you're saying it's quantum mechanics, then that means that you believe in the Copenhagen interpretation, because if you're saying that you can project your consciousness and sort of collapse the wave function, which is what you're talking about effectively in it, because it's all flux, isn't it? It's like whatever you don't perceive in front of your mind and your eyes, that's the quantum flux, and like everyone's trying to investigate that. So it's like remote viewers are working with quantum flux, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's about the closest I think we can get to sort of describing or ascribing like an explanation for it, because it's a very weird situation where you've got decades of testing, decades of success, and crazy things like predicting there's a ring around Jupiter and then that being found and finding shipwrecks and blah blah blah. Yet no one's actually able to say for sure what the fuck is going on. It's just a mad one. It's a real head fuck. It seems like
but that's sort of quantum mechanics perfectly,
Yeah, well, was it Niels Bohr himself who said if quantum physics doesn't, or if quantum mechanics, you'd have an.
If those who are not shocked when they come across quantum theory, then they haven't understood it. For those who are not shocked when they first come across quantum theory, they cannot possibly have understood it. That's Niels Bohr, yeah. Einstein, he said, if quantum theory is correct, it signifies the end of physics as a science.
Right, okay.
See what I mean? Because then it becomes almost like spirituality then, because it's like the observer-focused universe, Which is, if you're saying about like remote viewing, then that's all about observer, isn't it? Like it's like harnessing flux and trying to, because listen, you're saying Indigo Swan, right? He went to Jupiter, right? So Jupiter is flux, it's inert because there's no one there, at least no life form that we know about. So like he projected his consciousness to Jupiter and he was like collapsing the wave function. He's looking at the flux, and that's it though. Remember though, there's only two possible ways of interpreting quantum mechanics. It's the Copenhagen interpretation, or it's the many worlds theory. It's the multiverse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So are we?
So are you coming on side as a Copenhagen interpreter? Yeah. Are you coming on in terms of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics? Because I think that allows remote viewing. I think it does. It does because you're harnessing the flux.
Well, I think this is good evidence of it. So are we saying then that like your consciousness is kind of like movable, almost like quote unquote movable?
Yeah, in 4 dimensions. Yeah. Well, in 4D, But in your so like when you're asleep, your body doesn't move, but your mind moves in four-dimensional reality.
So it's almost like they're able to tap into something like that, because they're not.
I know.
So it's like they're not obviously going to. Well, the way that I think Ingo Swann, and my brain always like rearranges that as Ringo Starr for some reason, even though it's not even that close. But anyway, but the way Swann describes it is that he just kind of gets a sort of visceral feeling about something, as opposed to anything else, and then just kind of like writes it down. It's a really strange sounding process. It sounds like the most unscientific thing ever, yet it's been rigorously tested. And
well, I mean, listen, the thing is, like, what is the ultimate like arbiter of your reality? So what do you judge reality on? What is your primary sort of mode of experience of this world? You yourself. I'm talking to you.
For me personally,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult to sort of say that, because I would view I understand that like things are not necessarily here. Like I sit here in front of my speakers and my screen and everything. Yeah, these are not necessarily quote unquote real. They're real enough to me to affect me and to be able to affect me.
Yeah, no, but it's your senses. It's like what you it's only what you can measure, and it's different from what someone else can perceive of the universe.
Yes.
So the only empirical apparatus you have to bring to this phenomenon is your senses. You know?
Yeah. And it's worth noting that our senses are not really that great.
Well, they are what they are, but like they're all we have, and without them, there's nothing. Do you know what I mean? So you have to trust your senses. That's what I'm trying to say, Future Shock. I'm saying like you got to trust the observer-centered experience of reality, because that's your senses. No one else can do that for you. You know what I mean?
Well, I trust that that's what's happening now in 3D, but I do think ultimately there's going to be a sort of greater expanse of experience, you know, subsequently.
No, I'm just talking about you now. You know what I mean? I'm just like us, like how we experience reality. We're separate, you know. Like you're one part of London, I'm on the other side of London. But like we gotta trust ourselves. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense to you, right? Because as a Copenhagen interpreter of the quantum mechanics, I trust myself. You know what I mean? To be a measure of reality, right? To interact and to be able to understand the world I live in. You know.
I mean, I definitely
makes sense, right?
It makes sense. I definitely trust what's in front of me, and I definitely trust that, you know, like if I'm going to, you know,
but you gotta definitely trust it. You can't. Yeah, you gotta. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm just like. You are the experiencer of this universe. Only you, and no one else can step in for you. But you make everything. You make the meaning. Your mind makes the connections, and you know it's your show, bro. It's my show. It's our show. But that's the amazing thing. Does that make sense to you or not? Do you feel an impersonal bystander in reality, or do you feel that you actually take part in reality, or do you just think it happens?
Oh, I think that like that's up for debate, isn't it? It's like, are we here just for a ride? I mean, we
definitely.
Are we here for a ride that's already predetermined, or are we actually kind of like changing things?
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I believe in the Copenhagen interpretation. I do believe we ordered the flux of reality. You know, we're here in this pivotal place, moment in time, and whatever you can do, whatever you think of, the limit is you or us, the human mind. It's how we're trained to accept mediocrity. You know.
Something that we touched on before, I think. I mean, maybe not even on the show, but just in like a previous conversation, is that you know, the universe or God, whatever you want to sort of phrase it as, will tend to give you sort of opportunities, doors to walk through, and it's up to you to recognize those opportunities and to walk through those doors or not. And if you don't, it seems that similar opportunities are perhaps reduced or taken away, or at least, you know, temporarily suspended. You know, I've had situations where, looking back in hindsight, there were massive opportunities in certain senses that I didn't take, and then like subsequent to that, it's the opportunities around those kind of situations very quickly, dissipated. So it's almost like you're given a chance. You're given this chance to do X or Y, and if you don't recognize it, or if you don't have the confidence to do it, I think the universe rewards you. I think the universe is not kind or cowardly. I think it rewards.
You're gone underwater. Your mic's all wobbly. I don't know what happened.
Right. I don't know what's wrong, because obviously I'm just using the same one I've used for every week. So
okay. We'll have to see how it comes out on the broadcast. But you went all wobbly. But
I would say that it is weird that like our avatars aren't like doing the whole sort of vibrating speaker thing as usual. But maybe that's because we're both admin now. Now I have that privilege. So maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. But yeah, so no, I just think that the universe kind of like rewards you for having like confidence to do things, and also for recognizing the little opportunities that it gives you.
No, but it's like how much control do you want? How much responsibility can you take? Like, what if you were like handed some power? Do you know what I mean? In a quantum way. You were offered some power in the world, and you had to apply power, but you couldn't tell anyone. But that's like, do you know what I mean? It's like that's in line with like quantum mechanics. It's like, what if you sort of open the door to something? And I mean, it's not even a secret. This is already what quantum mechanics. This is what our experiments have demonstrated, that it's like it's how much responsibility or how much intelligence and how much you have, how much awareness you have. How much can you take control of things? Or are you just going to be a passerby,
Well, that's you're sort of touching almost upon the meaning of life in a way. If you're going to answer the question of like, what is the meaning of life? Obviously a very trite and cliched question, but you're kind of like we are kind of touching upon it there, in the sense that, look, it's to take the opportunities. It's like to look at, to interact with the universe in the correct ways, and
which is what we've got to start doing. We just got to start doing it. It's like we have to start interacting with the universe in the correct way. That's just what you said.
Thompson used to say, just do it now. That was one of the things he used
to say. But it's like we have to wake up. The world has to wake up, because everyone's living in like a sleep, like television. They're just. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand like how there's like a cognitive blanket in the whole of humanity? And they just don't know what's going on.
Worse or better though, like, because it could go either way, can't it?
Yeah.
Because we really in a time where we don't know what things like AI are going to do. We don't know how beneficial they're going to be, or whether there's going to be issues. Like something someone brought up the other day, I didn't even bloody think of. That what happens when AI develops a language that it can only talk to itself in? That's going to be slightly problematic. Yeah. When you've got a bunch of AIs that can talk to each other in a language that we can't understand, and then weird shit starts happening.
Well, they're already doing that.
Well, so, they already had them. They were doing an experiment with them. They were all talking in English, and then like two of them started talking in Sanskrit. I don't know if you saw that story. They just randomly started talking in Sanskrit for some reason, without being prompted or coded to. So, and that wasn't even AIs. That was the LLMs, the learned language models. So they're not supposed to do those kind of things. They're not supposed to have that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that there's talk that Sanskrit, because it's one of the earliest Indo-European languages, it's also the most logical.
Yeah,
so it has the least ambiguity on nouns and verbs. Apparently every word in Sanskrit has one meaning, but they are literally. Yeah, I mean, there's a story that AI started communicating in Sanskrit. And what did you say it was? Anthropics AI models.
So they're kind of language models. So they're not technically AI.
A language model. Yeah.
So no, they're the ones that they get everything from
training AI or something, or they're part of the knowledge base. It's just a bot. It's a bot running through or something,
Well, just kind of like what LLMs are, like ChatGPT and Grok and all that. They're LLMs. They're not actually AIs, even though everyone calls them AIs. They're actually learned language.
Wait, so what's the distinction? I mean, I always queried that, but why are they not AIs?
So the AI, when proper AI, I mean, it is artificial. It is still under the umbrella of art. So basically, they have LLMs. They're kind of called AIs, like incorrectly, because true artificial intelligence will come up with its own stuff, but really what they classify that as is AGI, artificial general intelligence. So what like things like Grok and ChatGPT do, as you know, and probably as listeners know, is they source information, don't they? They source information that's already available.
Well, they're known as aggregators. They're not much different from a search engine, really.
Basically, yeah, with a kind of personality code.
Yeah.
But so they're not like AGI level. So they shouldn't be making decisions upon their own, like to sort of change language under experimental conditions and stuff like this. So the fact that they are is potentially slightly worrying. But look, we just have to wait and see what the next few years bring, isn't it? Like everything's changing so fast.
I think I'd be more worried if they literally started inventing languages. That'd be crazy.
You'd have to think that they would, like at some point. Like, I mean, if you think with how good they're going to be in like 5 years' time, 10 years' time, what they're going to be capable of, we literally don't know.
I know, right? Yeah. I found this article about Sanskrit. I was actually looked at this. This one seems like it's not made by AI. Kind of ironic that there's AI videos, but they're made by fucking AI. It's like, is the irony not lost on you there, Future Shock? Huh.
It's like the AI is sort of like
I think this one is AI. I think that someone made this. All right, here's the competition. Let's watch this video and decide if it's made by AI, because I'm not sure. All right, you ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we got to be discerning these days. Huh? All right, tell me if it's playing.
That an ancient language over
Hear that?
Yep.
All right.
3,000 years old might be the key to building the smartest artificial intelligence. Yes, you heard that right. Sanskrit, the language of the Vedas, is catching the attention of scientists and tech experts worldwide. But why? First, let's understand what makes a language perfect for AI. Imagine trying to teach a robot how to understand and talk like us. The language you choose has to be super clear, structured, and logical, like a perfect blueprint. Now, most languages we use.
Okay, so how much of this video is AI, Future Shock?
It could, all of it could be AI, but
Maybe it is, isn't it? It's so funny.
It's in the
I
first
think the narrative, I think this isn't a bad video. This is the least obvious AI video I've watced. But
I think the opening scene looks
it's got an
obviously
Indian
AI.
monk. He might be like literally an Indian. He might be real. Like his voice is really him. Do you know what I mean?
It could be, but there's things like 11 Labs which have like
You
literally.
don't hear a lot of Indian AI voices.
There's things there, but I can find them that I've got 11 Labs, which is a voice library, and you can find any accent in the world, male or female, quite easily.
Yeah.
It is perfectly possible. I mean, I wouldn't do it personally. I don't think it's a very good. No offense, but I don't think it's the best accent to use for video.
The thing is, there's a lot of conditional sentences in this video. So it says Sanskrit might be the key. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just conditional, so it's not actually happening. Do you see what I mean?
What does it say here? So I'm just trying to look at the. What did it say there with the description? What was it?
It says Sanskrit might be the key.
Just underneath that, sorry, just underneath it. Sorry, it said it asked a question. I don't know what I was just trying to read the question. If you just scroll down slightly, sorry. Just scroll down slightly to underneath. What did it say? Is Sanskrit the future of artificial intelligence? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Again, it's a conditional sentence. That's what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, okay, but no. Yeah, but no. So it's not.
Probably
so
not.
Next.
No, I mean,
probably not, but maybe.
But no, most likely it will invent a more advanced language. And we're going to have to figure out how to deal with that, or be taught that somehow. I'm not sure how we're going to. There's so many things like this which are going to come up in the next few years that I'm not sure if we're ready, really, especially whilst we're like bombing the fuck out of each other as well at the same time.
Sure well, I'm not bombing anyone.
Well, we may get bombed. That's the thing. So
I may get bombed. I'm ready. I told you I was ready.
What your dream was about. You know what I mean? Some stray.
My dream. Get it over with. Yeah. Just get bombed and nuked.
But yeah, like
that's what they want for us. I mean, who am I to disagree? You know.
Well, it's
You
what
know,
we
when
know.
we've reached such a terrible situation in our world where we just everything wants war, this absolute saturation of corruption.
With saturation
We're
of
like,
war as well.
but listen, seriously, if your society is so corrupt that the people who stop corruption and the corrupt ones, you're in a death spiral. There's no future
No.
because you can't solve your own problems anymore because you're not out of the corruption. So it's like we are controlled by by a third party that is driving our country to war.
And we have no choice.
You know what I mean, are we not? Is that not what's happening? I mean, I look at I hear the jets out my window.
But it looks. I mean, obviously, it looks like it's escalating. I mean, it's been threatening, and there's been a lot of threats, and it seems like now it is actually happening. So, if it's not the sun, it'll be some other kind of. If it's not a solar flare, it'll be some kind of like nuclear flare. So, this is where the aliens need to come in and kind of like just sort of like tell us all to chill out. It's like, where are they? Why aren't they coming down and saying, "Hey, look, even especially when people
it's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Especially when people believe that like aliens potentially live underneath the sea and wherever else on Earth. They have a vested interest in wanting us to not destroy the Earth, surely. So
I don't know, bro. I don't even know. I mean, listen, it's like that Trinity thing. Do you know in 1945 there was a sort of so-called Trinity alien discovery? It was like 2 months after the Trinity test site, famously, where they tested the first nuclear weapon, right? You heard of that, man? Trinity.
Oh yeah,
test,
yeah.
right? So like, they were apparently small boys in New Mexico, and they saw a bright light accompanied by like a crashing sound. And the reports were that they found a crashed device in the shape of an avocado, with a protrusion at one end, manned by insectoids. According to them, the object was removed by the US Army. That is the earliest UFO, although the report is like retrospective. But I know you're into UFOs. But like,
a lot of ufologists, like
2 months after the nuclear test, and like so-called insectoid UFOs, do you believe in that? Do you think we could have like insectoid UFO?
I would have to. I don't know. An insectoid UFO would look like, really. I mean, they did. I was going to talk about in a bit about the Nazca, the little mummies in Peru. I don't know if you want me to get into that right now. I know you were going to share. I think you were going to share the thing about the avocado, weren't you? We can get into the little Nazca mummy aliens potential.
Yeah, I just don't know how much I believe in aliens. Like I just don't know.
In the sense, when you say that,
they drive around in avocado-shaped spaceships and they're insects.
I mean, I think quite a lot of it. A lot of UFO sightings are arguably technology, but as in like technology that like governments have. But is that technology stuff that they've developed, or is it reverse engineered from crashed? This kind of thing.
Yeah, so apparently Biden signed a new military spend bill. Yeah, I mean, Jacques Vallée, the thing is with Jacques Vallée, if you've heard of him, he kind of believed that aliens are not necessarily a physical phenomenon, but they're astral and psychological, but I would use the word demonic, but I know that isn't a word that maybe most people would be able to tolerate because it implies Satan and God and light and whatever. But that's what Jacques Vallée said, because of the way that the aliens behave, the way their spaceships behave, the way that these phenomena seem to be they seem to be sort of internalized and psychological, and a lot of what takes place happens inside people's minds.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's saying, because I did see that he'd done a couple of podcasts. I haven't watched it.
Jacques Vallée.
Yeah, Vallée. Yeah. I was planning to watch one of them, just sort of see what it was all about. So, is he some kind of?
Yeah, I mean, he's a big guy. I'm always talking about Jacques Vallée. I'm always talking about him because he follows up the CIA, the secret society aspects of UFO cults. Because, I think we did this a few weeks ago where I talked about UFO cults. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how they're they're sort of about changing the paradigm. It's a social change agenda. You know what I mean? So it's like, why do aliens care if we have lesbian, gay, and no borders? But these aliens that have been connected to the CIA since the 60s, apparently they care about having no borders on Earth, you know?
Right.
I mean, you must be familiar with some of the material about the so-called channeling. You know, like channeling, right? You channel something, right? Because all of these UFOs, a lot of that is about channeling intelligences or so-called discarnate intelligences. You know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah? And they're always talking about unfolding social change agendas, and one day humanity will learn to banish borders and they will live in peace. But it's like, but what? There seems to be some kind of transformation agenda. You know, like, why are you saying we have to have open borders? What's that got to do with aliens? Why is it that? If you've ever looked into it, Future Shock, that's one of the fundamental things about channeling UFO information. It's all about weird stuff like that.
I mean, I suppose objectively, like given enough time, given enough time and given the advancement of a civilization properly, that would make sense. I mean, in an ideal world where things are advanced enough, yes, you wouldn't have to have borders. This is kind of where the faulty thinking of
you want a border in your flat, mate? Your room. You want a border?
Right.
I tell you
this
what.
is what I'm saying.
We all deserve borders, bro. You know.
Right. So this is what I'm saying.
Don't
So
tell me I can't have a border. All right. I can't have a room. I can't have a space. I can't have.
From the current people who are like promulgating things like no borders and all this sort of thing, this is where the faulty thinking comes in, because obviously civilization isn't advanced enough to do that. And yes, of course, you do need to live in.
Well, listen. I mean, listen. I don't know about that. I mean, civilization be advanced. Who do you civilize first? You know.
Well, this is what I mean.
We're only who do we have to civilize? Can we civilize them? You know?
This is the other question as well, isn't it? Will it ever reach that level? Will it ever reach?
I don't know. Really, everything has to be level, yeah.
Because Michio Kaku says that, you know, and I think he didn't even he based it on someone else who'd said this. Actually, I didn't even realize this, but he talks about the 3 types of civilizations and says that, like, you know, the third type, you know, a type 3 civilization is like a galactic flaring civilization. And surely you would think that if you were to get to that stage, you can't have like a setup like we've got on Earth with all the conflicts and everything like that. So perhaps this is something that certain civilizations.
Yeah, but how do you manage that? Yeah, okay. So how do you manage people then on that scale, on a planetary scale?
You're asking me a hell of a question there, Truth.
No, listen, that's why I don't believe it, bro. You know, if you're going to say that we're going to have this utopia, it's possible, then how do you manage it? Because I don't believe in ideas without some basis to support them as a possibility.
Time, basically. I mean, the thing
is, otherwise it's just wishful thinking.
Well, yeah, to some degree, it is wishful thinking, but I do believe that either one of 2 things will happen basically over time. Either we will destroy ourselves and then we'll be wiped out, and then the next level of, you know, the next sort of like civilization will emerge on Earth, or we will actually get destroyed. So one of those things is going to happen basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because if nuclear weapons start to fall on the Earth, then the sun will react. Because we talked last time about how, like, the solar wind is connected to activity inside the Earth, which is usually earthquakes, or because of radioactive phenomena inside the Earth, and they're getting triggered by plasma. So if there is, like, literally some kind of, like, nuclear holocaust on Earth, then the sun will actually clean it up. It will just go, like, it will just destroy everything on Earth, because it will be like a chain reaction, but no one talks about that.
Okay, that's
interesting. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember what we talked about last time, yeah?
I think that potentially as well, going back over, you know, millions, hundreds of millions, billions of years, we could have had multiple, it's perfectly plausible that we could have had multiple civilizations rise and fall, because it won't take long. It wouldn't take long to eradicate any evidence of previous civilizations.
It wouldn't take long if just that all the seams of the Earth were opened up and everything was engulfed in volcanic ash and lava. It wouldn't take long. There'd be no record. It'd be like wipe the slate clean.
Yeah,
I think that might have happened. It like could be one of those things that happened. It's like it could happen now, bro. Honestly. But what I'm saying is, especially with the realization that the solar wind and magnetosphere is connected intrinsically to Earth. So anything that happens inside the Earth or on the Earth, it's going to be like a sort of recalibration, or it's going to affect the sun. It's going to create incredible plasma discharges because the solar wind interacts, as I keep saying, with the center of the Earth, which is earthquakes. Which is why you have these lights and plasma runoff during earthquakes, because it's a uranium event, because uranium is in the center of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have a chain reaction potentially. But what amazes me is how close we are just to welcoming that, because it could happen.
Well, if things keep on escalating as they are now, then if the Samson option happens, then everything gets to start again. Well, hopefully we won't get to that point. We should be. We're pretty positive on this Sunday evening, right?
I don't know, bro. I'm up and down these days, man. Listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoke a cigarette and play a tune, and I'll come back and I'll talk about Manuel Swedenborg. So, shall I put your tune on? Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Do you want to tell me about it?
Yeah, we'll do. What were you going to talk about? Sorry, what did you say?
No, Manuel Swedenborg later. But we'll just play a song and I can have a cigarette.
Okay, cool. And then after that, I'll get into the mummy thing I was going on about.
Right, tell us about the song you want us to play, yeah.
And okay. So do you
That's
remember the name of the song?
Don't give her tequila. Yeah.
Yeah, Don't Give Her Tequila is the name of the song. I mean, it was only made about a week ago. Who
is you're not giving tequila to?
I mean, I'm not legally obliged to discuss.
Oh, I know though. I know who. Is it you? So tell us about the song, or maybe not. Maybe skit around the facts, and we'll just play it, shall we?
Yeah, the song speaks for itself.
We don't want to incriminate anyone, do we?
The song is an unsigned drum and bass track. It's got a bit of funk to it, let's say. And so let's stick it on and let it roll.
All right, bro. I'm gonna bang it on, smoke a cigarette, and tell us about the track, yeah. And tell us why you named it Don't Give Her Tequila. All right?
Okay.
Okay, Future Shock, are you there?
I am here, yeah.
I quite like the way that track closes. It sort of wraps itself up at the end in a little bow and says goodnight, right? It's quite a nice little end. I like it.
I always quite like doing outros because it's just different. So like
Outros are good.
you can do whatever you want with an outro. I mean, when you're making a track like a drum and bass track or a house track or whatever it is, obviously that's two quite different genres, but it's just as an example. It's kind of like you're quite regimented by what you can do in terms of like the speed of things. Whereas when you get to the outro, you can just kind of do whatever you want at whatever speed you want with whatever sound you want. You just got this freedom to just do whatever. And so I always like to do a little outro just as a kind of little, yeah, you kind of summed it up quite nicely there, just to tie things together, like a little bow on top of the present sort of thing.
So the thing I was going to talk about was Emanuel Swedenborg, and he's an 18th century sort of scientist, mystic, polymath. But above all, I think he's a Freemason. And I think he, more than anyone else, more than even Aleister Crowley, he opened up the portal, the dark portal, to allow the demonic forces to invade this world. So you might want to ask me more about that, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the Illuminati and the Freemasons, what they do is for thousands of years, they've gone into spiritual contact. And I know you believe in UFOs, but there's nothing in the UFO phenomenon that wasn't already prevalent in the demon and the Middle Ages phenomenon of, like, you know, Satan appearing, you know, to witches, and sort of supernatural phenomena. So, I mean, if you look at Swedenborg and how he's supposedly like a scientific sort of, ostensibly a Christian, but he kept something called he kept a spiritual diary, which you can access to this day, and it's his fascinating accounts of his experiences of the spirit world and his communication with like characters like apparently King George II, King of England, who had been dead for a month when Swedenborg started speaking to his ghost, as well as Pope Benedict XIV 3 weeks after his death. Swedenborg also claimed to have spoken to Aristotle. Aristotle appeared to Swedenborg apparently in a rough and forlorn state because all of the works of Aristotle had only given rise to scientism without faith, which is interesting, which is where we are now, really. And men being drawn away from God. And this is what Swedenborg calls learned dust. So, like the modern scientific world we live in, where they can explain the things like our telephone and our laptops, and they can predict and monitor sort of various cycles in nature, but ultimately they are learned dust is that we are still in darkness until we sort of tackle quantum mechanics and we understand the implications of that.
This is the guy you're talking about here, yeah? Emanuel Swedenborg, yeah?
Yeah.
Where it says, the truth is that the life of everyone, both of man, of spirit, and also of angel, flows in solely from the Lord, who is life itself, and diffuses itself through the whole heaven and also through hell, thus into everyone. And this in an order and series incomprehensible, but the life which flows in is received by each one according to his disposition. Interesting quote there. That's a hell of a quote.
Yeah, the thing is with Swedenborg, though, it's like you look at his accounts and it's like, for instance, anyone who Swedenborg didn't like, or apparently they always found themselves in the afterlife being punished. So
right.
He met the spirit of philosopher Christian Wolff, and he described him in the spirit that he lives among fools and simpletons. He has the appearance of a chimney sweep. His learning turning into suffocating dust. Or the Dutch, whom he met in the next world, apparently, the Dutch. There's so many crazy things actually about this, right?
Sorry, say that again. He met the Dutch in the next world. What does that mean? Sorry.
Yeah, no, well, what does it mean? Well, okay, so into the next world, imagine seeing communities of people and they're gathered together under one sort of thing. So the Dutch, because he, this is quite weird, because listen, this is like an account of a spiritual, apparently like having contact in the spirit world. And it just, how likely does it seem to you? Because he says this, he says, the Dutch, whom he saw in the next world, they lived in a vomit stench because their wives were allowed to rule over their husbands. So they collected vessels full of vomit. This is in the astral world. So imagine this is like an astral reality, like a hell.
That's what I was going to ask you. Sorry, I was going to say, like, did he say that he was achieving these states via some sort of meditation? What was his process to access this information?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, he might be like the quietist in that it's like a sort of meditation. But as for that, because he's a Freemason, because the Freemasons are actually taught into techniques of making contact with spirits.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing is, though, Swedenborg was a Jacobite secret agent. So he spent time in Holland, and he was agitating in favor of the Catholic monarchy, King James the Pretender, I think, right? So the English Pretender was James II. Of course, it was the so-called glorious revolution William of Orange, who deposed King James II. But there are some very interesting things about this, because he's in touch with these. He starts to admit that they're evil spirits. So he says that everything he mentions, everyone he mentions, is like suffering or sort of in some kind of like hell world, and like sort of suffused in sort of their so-called learning is nothing but suffocating dust. But the visions are really strange, because there's one of them where he meets Muslims, right? So what you've got to say here is, this is Swedenborg. This is, I mean, you can Google him. He's well known. There's a Swedenborgian Freemason rite where they use techniques that Swedenborg developed to contact spirits. So in one of the entries, he claims that in death, Muhammad has become a Christian. I'm only reading what Swedenborg says, so I'm not making a personal opinion about this. Muhammad,
sorry, I was just putting it up on just as a matter of interest kind of thing whilst you were explaining.
So Muhammad has become a Christian, and his followers are shut out from heaven until they can accept Jesus as being God on earth. He also writes, as respects Muhammad, he is not among the Mohammedans but among the Christians. This is really funny if you think about it, because it's cool. I mean, it's kind of, I don't take it seriously necessarily, but in this next world, he saw Muhammad, but that he was with Christians, but that the Mohammedan followers, because they didn't follow Christ, they weren't with Muhammad. But it gets even weirder. So I've just followed the sequence of his Muhammad discoveries, and in the later entries, he says Muhammad is in chains, and his followers vainly attempt to free him from a stockade which they can't gain access to. As a result of not being able to have their Muhammad, they choose another Muhammad, a man from Germany, to be their new Muhammad. The second Muhammad was in chains, and for whom they sought, and he was led forth. But it was discovered that he had been in the world, and he was from Saxony in Germany. And then they elected the third Muhammad. So there was a third Muhammad, who was a Christian from Greece. This is all because they can't find the original Muhammad, right? So imagine being in the spirit world, if you can. And like, you have to decide how much of this is fabrication and demonic counsel. But he was from Greece, and he had a place behind the one, because he sometimes undertook the other Muhammad's duties and worked diligently, and he proclaimed the previous Muhammad. So he was acknowledged by some among them who have sought many Muhammads. So it kind of seems farcical. I mean, do you think, like, I mean, I know you don't necessarily believe in organized religion, but you might be sort of more accepting of the idea there's some kind of deception that according to Swedenborg, who apparently encountered different Muhammads, and he said that the real Muhammad was a Christian or something, and that his followers couldn't find him. I mean, what do you think of that? Is it sheer nonsense, or it's just up for discussion, bro? Do you know what I mean?
Listen, I mean, I have no clue at all. I mean, look, I am not a well-read person on, like, you know, any kind of religious background or history. So, like you sort of alluded to, I just don't necessarily, like we got into it the other day on the show, like, I don't necessarily feel you need an organized religion to have a relationship with God or the universe, and that can just be done on a minute-to-minute, hourly basis, daily basis, regardless. However, that's a sort of separate point. Yeah, well, look, this was all in what, the 1700 and
18th century.
Yeah, so I mean, like I highlighted on screen there, it says, "I have been permitted to converse with spirits and angels." Right. Well, what do you mean by that? Like, who's permitted you?
Yeah, permitted. Yeah.
So
it seems like a Freemasonic sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what else to say about that, other than, like, you know, it could just be him making shit up, to be honest with you.
No, it isn't that, because there's actually there's quite weird things that happen to him. So, like, he was always being persecuted by these spirits. So I'll read this out. So, it was perceived that when the most deceitful spirits above the head spoke among themselves, wishing to destroy me, they say they could not do it because there was nothing of me to be found. But if there'd been anything, they could have done it. So he's talking about spirits trying to destroy him. But when it was represented that I was, as it were, nothing, then they seemed to themselves to have no power over that which thus appeared as nothing, for they would have nothing to assault. Thus he is safe who in true faith believes himself to be nothing. That's quite weird. That's like Zen. It's like believing yourself to be nothing. So are you with me here, Future Shock?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I quite like this, because he's like being assailed. He's like, consciousness has been opened, whatever you can say, Kundalini, or he can just be, he hears these spirit voices. But they're always assailing him, and he sort of reverts to nothing, like as if it's a Zen thing. This is what I always believe in. You know, you sort of make yourself transcendental and nothing at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're in the flow state, isn't it? Like, or anything like that, or the golden ratio, or whatever they call it. You're not necessarily even really thinking about what you're doing or saying or anything like that. It's all just kind of happening. And so in some sense, there is nothing there, yet there is everything there at the same time. You're sort of almost truly connected, yet you're not having to kind of, I guess maybe it's just like not having the influence of, like, human ego, or you know, sort of your human experiences or worries, or whatever you want to call it, affecting you. And you're just kind of like pure, for want of a better word. Do you know what I mean? You're just sort of like expressing your consciousness in the purest
Well,
sense.
I think that's the idea. I mean, he also says how dreams are manufactured by spirits. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I think that, I mean, look, dreams, like, obviously back in the 1700s, they didn't really have much understanding of how areas of the brain work. So, yeah, I think that's quite debatable. But I mean, it could be.
Come off the fence and give us just. You're Mr. always weighing up the options, but, like, what do you think? You know, do you think, like, what are dreams?
In terms of dreams, I agree with what I say you really concluded or were talking to me about years and years ago. I think that's still the best argument, that we do exist partly in 3D and 4D when we dream. 3D, you know, in bed and whatnot. 4D, like, our consciousness has traveled to another sort of, like, quote unquote astral plane. I do believe you are accessing something akin to what happens when you die. Beyond that is speculation, really, for me. But I do believe there is a, if you want to call it, spiritual element to it. Yeah. If you want to try to claim that there is a sort of demonic control, then okay, I would say that, well, the demons are very nice to me there, because I hardly ever have nightmares, and they give me quite nice, interesting, quite cinematic, enjoyable dreams. So, you know, cheers to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think it is, like, in all seriousness, I do think it is a cross between, essentially, looking at it from a sort of quantum perspective, I do think it is your consciousness temporarily crossing into 4 dimensions. And it may be that that's built into us as to some degree a coping mechanism for when we die, so that it's not such a jolt, you know. It's a similar type of experience. It's a familiar type of feeling and experience.
Is it not said that you produce the most DMT before you die?
Yeah.
I mean, you must know about that. What? Explain that to me.
So yeah, I mean, when you go to sleep, you produce a very, very small amount of DMT. I mean, I forget the actual sort of like sort of measurable amounts, but when you die, it has been verified many times, and is common scientific knowledge that you release a huge, like a much huger amount of DMT at the point of death. So that's quite interesting. It seems
to be produced in the pineal gland.
In the pineal gland. Yeah. Dimethyltryptamine is what DMT is, and yeah, you know, obviously people can smoke it in rituals and stuff like this. So it is supposed to be, what's it called, the spirit molecule, isn't it? That's what was it? It's not Terence McKenna who called it that. Who is it?
I think Terence McKenna, was it not?
Terence McKenna who called it this.
Timothy Leary. No, hang on.
Timothy Leary. That's going to bother me.
It's got to be McKenna, man. Honestly.
Rick Strassman. That's it. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the idea being it could be like a preparatory device, but also then if people who are more on the scientific side, and which I don't really agree with, and this isn't me being like offensive or anything, but they will argue that, oh well, you know, it's just like something that the brain does, it's just something that comes from the brain to kind of like help you cope with dying as such, which is kind of what I'm saying, but I think it's more that it helps you cope with that transition back into the whether you want to call it afterlife.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
But the scientists would just say
they would just say it's an illusion. It's just a drug trip. If you have a near-death experience, they would just say it's DMT.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's one of those. I was just going to say, unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can't really prove either way, is it? You know what I mean? So,
well, listen, it's what I said before. It's you've got to use your own experience of reality and use your tools to discern what's really happening, and that's only we can do that. Only you can do that. Only the listeners can do that. Because you can't. The alternative is someone else is telling you what's real.
I mean, speaking of Terence McKenna, we're basically paraphrasing what he said, isn't it? About the only what was it? The only knowledge you have of the universe or of reality is fuck it, I've got to find the quote because I don't want to butcher the quote, but it's very similar to what we're saying. Essentially, the idea being that you need to understand realities. For fuck's sake, I'm going to butcher the quote.
I mean, listen, there's an extreme called solipsism. Have you heard of solipsism? Where you obviously that's where you cannot reliably prove anything exists apart from your own conscious perception of the world. That's solipsism, though. But it's kind of like it was a Greek philosophy, but it was rejected because it was like too insane. Because you just don't believe that anything else is real. But then you have to moderate that idea that reality is fluid, but you have to accept that there is some kind of basic reality.
Yeah, essentially.
So listen, I mean, I'm still on about Swedenborg, right? And he said that I dreamt during the night and upon waking spoke with spirits who said that they had been watching around me and that they had occasioned the dream and had expressly induced everything I remembered and related. From this, it is still more manifest to me that dreams are from the world of spirits. Pretty interesting, isn't it? I can't necessarily disagree with that.
But it's what the Native Americans used to say, isn't it? That dreams were kind of like just a preparation for death. Sort of kind of what I was saying before in terms of like getting you used to what the experience is like, sort of thing. So it's along a similar sort of lines, isn't it?
So I mean, there's a whole complex sort of ecosystem in this Swedenborg universe. There's like something called the Punishers. So, like, do you know Harry Potter? there's that thing called what are those things that punish not the berserkers? Do you know that thing? What are they called? They like harass wayward witches. Have you heard of about Harry Potter?
So literally all I've heard about, I've never watched any Harry Potter.
Never watched any. Okay, yeah,
I'm one of those people. Yeah,
right. So it's quite interesting that he talks about I think our listeners would know what they're called. They're not the Punishers. They're like berserkers or something. So he says here, I wondered that the Punisher was so suddenly present. So what happens in the spirit world, according to Swedenborg, is that when spirits harass someone without license or permission, then there's like a punishment force, like a spiritual punishment force that falls upon those demons or spirits that try and influence their dreams, because it's perceived that it arose from the necessity of man's sleeping in security, as otherwise the human race would perish. Such a punishment therefore follows from necessity that the punishers were so immediately present. So according to Swedenborg, in the spiritual realm, in the astral realm, when something tries to interfere with your dream or tries to put you in a nightmare, there's like a sort of punishment force, like a spiritual force, like monitoring, like a police force.
yeah. So I was going to say,
policing the astral world. So
you're going to say there's kind of like a sort of hierarchy or something whereby you can get punished if you are demonic entity, and this seems it is a strange concept that a demonic entity could be punished for doing something wrong or doing something that it shouldn't. That seems a kind of strange concept, because what is a demonic entity in of itself? Surely that is something.
Yeah, but it's lawless. But it's an entity that's lawless, and it's like it has to follow the hierarchy, because because it's lawless by definition. But there is a hierarchy that's like a demonic hierarchy, because hierarchy exists in even rats. So how about the rat experiments?
Which ones? Sorry,
Didier Desnoyers. We talked about him before. The rat experiments, how they would take 9 rats and they would introduce them, and you remember this stuff? Talked about this before.
Yeah,
they would adopt the characteristics, because in a closed community of rats, there's going to be rats that can swim, rats that can't swim, rats that are aggressive, rats that are passive, and so they have to cooperate. So what happens is that you get a swimmer rat, you get a bully rat that can't swim, so he has to bully the swimmer rats to get food to survive. Right. So also there's a swimmer rat who doesn't bully, and he's independent and he eats his own food. I think we've talked about this before, but it's quite interesting actually if we go over it again. So my question will be to you, right? So do you get the idea that there's this hierarchy of rats that actually naturally does materialize if you put rats into a closed system? This hierarchical system emerges from these 9 rats. You following me here?
Yeah.
Okay. And we said there's bully rats because they can't swim. Okay, so let me explain the setup. So you've got an island. One side there's rats, there's water, and then on the other side of the water there's food available to the rats. However, if the rats can't swim, they can't get the food. So there is, for whatever reason, every time this experiment is performed, the exact same ratios to bully rats, to independent rats, to subservient rats. If you remember, the subservient rat will be bullied by the aggressive rat to swim to get the food for the aggressive rat. There are rats that can neither swim nor bully, so they have to exist on the scraps that are left behind. But quite interestingly, there's a kind of a battle that takes place between the bully rats, because they have to fight for superiority. So the bully rats fight each other all night, and then the rat who has been vanquished becomes a subservient of the bully rat that cannot swim and has to bully, right? But the weird thing is that no matter, even stranger, is if you take even stranger. If you were to take you take the 9 bully rats out of the system. So you've got 9 different experiments. You can take a bully rat, or you can take the coward rat, or you can take the independent rat. And if you isolate them and you put them in a system, then weirdly the same hierarchy develops among those homogeneous rats, whether they're all bullies or whether they're all what's called scapegoat rats, that they have to get food for the stronger rats, or whether they're weak rats that can't swim and just have to exist on the crumbs left over. It's Didier Desnoyers. It's the University of Nancy in France. It's an absolutely extraordinary piece of research. It's quite recent, but it's amazing how it seems to suggest that like roles, hierarchical roles, and are placed on as part of like the coding of nature, because that's always what I talk about, isn't it? Like the coding, the encoding in the system.
So did they ever do more than 9? Because from what I'm understanding, there was 9 each time, right? Each time they've done it is only 9. It's the same number each time, is it?
Yeah, Didier Desnoyers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just what my query is like. My
surprise you, or does that fit into your expectations of how the world works, or do you think there's something moderately interesting about that?
Well, the thing is, what I would think is like, well, what happens when it's 10 or 12 or 18? Does it kind of extrapolate out in the same way? But it is interesting, obviously, that if they're doing that with separate groups, if they're doing that with, set A of 9, set B of 9, C of 9, that they all arrange in the same way. That does imply a kind of a coding based on those numbers. Yeah. But then when you have, then if they have 18, does it just double? Do you just have 2 of each one to like double the subservient ones, double the ones that can't swim, double
Probably.
That would be interesting to see.
So, but yeah, you'd have to do the experiment to find out, I suppose. But yeah,
the fact that it's repeat. I mean, obviously, as we know, with science and scientific experiments, when you can repeat things, when you get repeatable, like going back to the remote, like with the remote viewing stuff, like when you get repeatable results, I mean, like it's hard to argue, obviously. So yeah, it does seem to imply a kind of coding of some kind, whether that's I don't know, whether that's DNA, genetic kind of coding. I don't know whether it's somehow things are switched on and off in certain conditions in a coded way. I don't know. It's interesting.
So, I mean, the thing is about that kind of idea of a seed universe or an encoded universe, like that emerges like these structures, these hierarchies, and not just that, but these patterns of nature, like the Fibonacci sequence. Mm-hmm. They're all encoded, they emerge from nature. So I think I've talked about this before, but there's this video game called Elite Dangerous. And David Braben, he created this Elite Dangerous universe. But in fact, the original game, Elite, was created by the most mathematically simple way. And I think this is something I've talked about. It's called procedural generation. So the original Elite computer game, I don't know if you ever played games in the 80s, but I was a big fan of Elite in 1984. First appeared for the BBC Micro, and it was described as one of the greatest programming feats of all time. So what Elite was in 1984, it was a whole 3D open world universe of 8, what they call a sandbox. Yeah. So it had 8 galaxies, and I think each galaxy had 256 planets. It was crammed into 22 kilobytes of RAM. Even the creator of the BBC Micro itself, Sophie Wilson, she described it as a game that could not have been written. But the
idea is it sort of wrote itself in a way, but kind of like the way it was coded, it was sort of self-generating in a way, if I understand it correctly.
Not exactly. Not quite.
Oh, okay, sorry. Go on. Sorry.
Write itself, no. So in 1984, it was like a revelation to have a virtual universe of 8 galaxies. No, it didn't write itself. So each galaxy had 256 planets. It meant there was 2,048 unique star systems So the original 8-bit architecture did not have enough memory. Listen to this, quite important. You didn't have enough memory to, I don't know if you know the game, but there's planet descriptions. So 1984, you're flying through black and white space in a spaceship. You can hyperspace to different planets, and every planet has a detailed description of the politics and the economics of that planet. So there are 2,048 star systems, but the 8-bit architecture didn't have enough memory to do detailed descriptions of those planets. So literally, there wasn't enough of a word file to actually describe those planets. So instead, they used procedural generation. So what it means is that there's seeds, pieces of information that are seeds and are stuck together, strung together, according to an algorithm, but it's not always entirely accurate. So what would happen is you booted the game up, and the descriptions of the planet, and by definition also the landscape of the universe, would come from text string seeds. And Ian Bell discussed the nature of procedural generation and the limitless possibilities of such a simple mathematical process. So what I'm trying to get at is that if you can do that in 1984, you can actually produce more from the system than there is capacity. So like you're already transcending the limits of the system. So by producing 256 planets with words, sort of effectively little word documents to describe each planet, there wasn't enough memory in the 8-bit computer to do that. So they would use seeds and procedural generation. And my point is how it echoes our own reality and how we perceive the world. But I'll just read on a little bit. So with Elite, this is Ian Braben. He said that they used a procedurally generated universe. They settled on a galaxy of 256 planets because they didn't have a limit. Because with this technology, there's no limit to how much infinite possibilities of. I'll talk about the seeds in a minute because it might not be clear what the seeds actually are. But the seeds are little pieces of information that are combined to create like a description of a planet and of its race, of the races, and of like whatever particularities that culture has.
Yeah.
So you've got an infinite number of planets potentially, as long as your random number generator doesn't cycle. So originally the galaxy count started at 1; it just kept going up. David Johnson, the founder of Acornsoft, I mean, this is all like old school stuff, but he said that we should limit this because if you had a limitless number of galaxies, and they could with the technology, it would just seem unrealistic. It would just seem irrational and unreal. And that's always been my complaint about multiverse theory, Future Shock, is that if you do believe in the multiverse theory, you just becomes the multiverses and the possible planets and it just becomes irrational. Does that not trouble you? It troubles me, man.
In what sense do you mean it becomes irrational as such?
Well, because it does, because it's a multiverse, because there's infinite planets, infinite people, infinite you, infinite me. It's irrational. It makes no sense. Does that, you get it? I mean, like,
I do get
every choice you've made in your life and every choice that's been made on a molecular level, there's a different reality to go along with that. Does that seem to make sense to you?
Well, it's a question of like whether you think, to me, in my head anyway, it's a question of whether you think there's one or infinite. So there's either one of something.
I don't believe there's infinite. No, my opinion is no. I don't believe it.
So then there's only one of something, which then is kind of like, or like.
No, it's the Copenhagen interpretation.
So there's
it's where you manage the flux. Yeah.
Yes, there's one way forward, I suppose, is what I'm saying. So there's like,
yeah.
So there's either one way forward or there's infinite ways forward. So there can't be 2 or 3 or 4 or 10,000. It's either one way forward or infinite. So you're kind of in one of the two camps, aren't you? Basically, there's really only two camps that there can be.
Well, I'm asking you what you think.
I know.
What do you think? Does it repulse you, the idea of infinity? like infinite
No,
Rob,
because, like we disagreed
infinite
about this
future.
before, which I don't see why it doesn't necessarily. I don't see why it necessarily doesn't make any sense. Because
Do you not see why it doesn't make sense?
not necessarily.
We're trying to
I mean,
explain why it doesn't make sense, because there'd be infinite, infinite you and me's, just different coloured heads and different coloured hairs. But you've got to open your mind to what infinity means, and it's irrational. It's like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine?
Well, what do you mean by irrational, like infinity being irrational? Because I can't get. I was more thinking like this sort of a few years
you
ago.
tell me you believe in multiverse theory?
I'm open.
You had this out last week before.
I'm
You
open
side with the multiverse theory.
Okay, so I guess I should explain it in the sense that the thing that troubles me about it is that, like, I find it difficult to believe that there's only one of something, and I understand that what we're saying is it's one way forward rather than one like thing, but
Not necessarily, but it's the multiverse thing. Is that, again, it's the opposite of the Copenhagen interpretation. It's like, do you believe that you're observing, being here as an observer, you manage quantum flux, that you order reality, or do you believe that? Do you believe in an irrational universe? Because that's what it is. Effectively, it's an irrational universe where infinity is spiraling out in all directions.
I definitely think that we live in a universe where we order the reality ourselves.
Well, that means you're a Copenhagen guy then. So yeah, that's what I believe.
But then that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't other universe. Okay, I suppose maybe I'm getting my own, or maybe I'm getting my wires crossed or coming across incorrectly. I believe that there are multiple universes where this is going on. I don't necessarily.
I mean, now you're just mixing it up, though. Yeah, that's the problem. See, you're mixing it up. You can't have both, really. I mean, unless you can, but you need to create a new theory.
So I guess what I'm saying is my if I was to kind of like, gun to head sort of thing, I would say that most likely there are multiple universes. That doesn't necessarily mean there are multiple Robs and multiple, whoever's.
Well, it does, though. I mean, listen. Okay, multiple universes possibly, but are those universes connected to your what we should call your causal continuum? Causal continuum by which you progress through life and you make decisions and things happen. But according to the multiverse theory, there are multiple universes that come out of those decisions. You're familiar with, that, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm more on the side of the idea of there just being more than one universe, and not necessarily multiple. I'm not saying multiple versions of our universe. I'm saying just there being multiple universes.
Why do you believe that?
Because I just feel that every time we think there's one of something, there turns out to not be one of something. So whether it be like the solar system, the sun, the galaxy, I don't see why that ends at the universe. Obviously, I don't have proof of this. It's not like I can prove it, right?
Yeah.
But that's what my working theory would be. Whenever we thought there's one of something, there's always turned out to not. There's always turned out to be more. So why does that end at the universe? And plus, also, look, we don't know what's outside our universe. So I could be right, you could be right. We have no way of really knowing that. And I think maybe when we do pass on, maybe this is information that we will discover properly, or at least when our civilization, if we don't blow ourselves up, gets advanced enough to have the knowledge, or to have the ability to get that knowledge. Yes, in hundreds, thousands, maybe years' time, we'll understand it better. It's speculation, really, at the moment. But yeah, I'm much more pro the idea that there are multiple universes rather than multiple versions of this universe, if you know what I mean.
So the thing is with this elite game is that the seed words were a handful of descriptive adjectives and nouns, and they were mathematically combined to create hundreds of unique descriptions. So when these descriptions were combined with other planetary data, they made these systems completely unique. So there were the verbs that we used were verbs like notable, famed for, ravaged by, and then adjectives like deadly, evil, exotic, and then nouns like disease, earthquakes, cuisine, creatures. And then the alien inhabitants. There was a variety of lobstoids, craboids, monkeys, and poets. Really strangely, the majority of these planetary descriptions were suitably evocative, and they help put the flesh and bones on this limitless 3D space environment. So you had AI spaceships that would, exist in a three-dimensional galaxy. Of course, there are 8 galaxies, and they would engage the player in combat, or they'd be like predatory space pirates, or they'd be the forces of law, the Galcop forces of law, punishing the player. So, I mean, you don't know, the 80s was so great for video games, particularly Elite, because it just blew our minds. And I remember playing this, when it kind of first came out, and I found a copy at like a car boot sale.
I think my first computer was an Amstrad 464. Yeah, that was the first one.
That was a good computer.
So that's
it was used a lot for word processing.
And Jesus Christ,
remember the day,
you put in like a tape. Wasn't it a tape?
No, it was good. I know, yeah, it was a good computer.
I remember. I actually still. Do you know? It's funny how like you have certain like moments in your life where you're always like it's such a sort of like solidified, stuck memory. And I remember seeing that computer on the stand for the first time as a little kid and being so excited.
Really?
So like overcome with excitement to see I had a well, not me, it's my family, but like I kind of bought it for me. Amstrad 464. It's not a PC, obviously. It's different to obviously different to a PC. Like
but I mean, back in those days, PCs were just for business, and there was no graphics or sound card or anything. It was like they had rude the sort of so-called home like game machines were the cutting edge of computer technology back then. Actually,
it's hilarious to think that the way they used to try to entertain you as well. Like, so when you would load for people that don't know about this, maybe weren't around at the time, when you'd put in a cassette, but typically you did have cartridges as well, but typically you would get things in cassette form, and it would take about 20-30 minutes to load a game, something like that. And while you were waiting for it to load, there was no sort of like anything other than it used to put my 464 used to put like a border around the screen, and it would just flash different colors as if that was supposed to entertain you for half an hour. You're supposed to sit in front of the screen for half an hour being entertained by these sort of like 6 to 8-bit fucking pink and yellow graphics that flashed around.
And if you forget about the screaming noise as well.
Loading.
Like the loading. So it would like start screaming at you, and it would flash multicolors at you. So you got sort of like a really intense sort of like a sort of almost psychedelic experience, but more like some kind of seizure.
Yeah, it was more of a seizure induced. It was probably responsible for a few seizures. It didn't come with a warning either, because back in those days, they didn't, no one needed to be warned about anything. Obviously, these days, we need to warn everyone about absolutely everything that's happening all the time, in case they perish in some way from shock or angst of some kind. People are very perishable, mentally perishable these days,
So, I mean, the thing is about this Swedenborg thing, though, it's like his idea was that this demonic hierarchy goes back to the ancient world and is connected to the spirits of the Nephilim. So the spirits, as well as the spirits of the dead, he describes this as the activities of the Nephilim. Have you heard of the Nephilim?
Yeah, I remember the Nephilim. I'm trying to remember exactly the story of the Nephilim. What the giant? They were sort of like sort of
giants, so-called giants, yeah.
But then, okay, yeah.
Well, Nephal is Hebrew, and it means to fall. That's where we have the idea of the fallen angels, or the fallen ones. Okay. Hebrew word nafal. It means to fall, but it also means to make other people fall. So it's both the fallen ones and those who fall on others.
I mean, with these
are supposedly the original inhabitants of Canaan, And when Eden, this is Friedenberg saying this. I mean, you know, it's like a weird Christian sort of idea, but I don't know. It doesn't necessarily strike me as being incorrect, but the idea is that these fallen angels, these sort of humanoid type things, right? They lived on Earth. They supposedly intermarried with the children of man, but they taught humanity like all of the crafts and abilities to hunt and create local technology and such. But the idea is they became corrupted and lost their love for God. And I mean, I'm not sure, I don't even know if this is true, honestly, but this is all we have as a historical idea that what these forces, these demons could be. But according to Swedenborg, I mean, again, he has this sort of inside scoop. He's listening to these spirits all the time. So they're telling him this. So where's it coming from? I mean, you know, do you believe that he did contact spirits, or is it also from his subconscious mind? But listen, let me continue a little, and we'll play a song, or we'll just have a little chat. But according to Swedenborg, not all the Nephilim perished in the Great Flood, because this is the kind of thing Freemasons believe, because this is an essential one of their prophets, basically, Swedenborg. And if you want to know what's going on in the world now and what kind of people are ruling the world, you have to look back at what they were doing 300 years ago to sort of figure out that was their sort of, that was their program. That was ultimately what they're doing. They're doing sort of spiritual communication. Like we've got about Jack Parsons and the OTO. It's all technology and science related to the occult. So not all the Nephilim perished in the Great Flood. Some went on to father the 7 profane tribes known as the Avim, the Anakim. If you like Star Wars, you know about Anakim. It's just a Hebrew thing, Anakim. Horim, the Imin, the Zumzim, the Zamzumin, and the Rephaim. The presence of these tribes in the present day, that they are all disappeared. These were the ancient Canaanite tribes. The suggestions that the origin, the Anak, as in the Anakim, they're one of the tribes of the Nephilim. They were described as very tall. And so they could be one of the origins of the ideas that these were giants. So they were literally bigger than the Judeans, or, well, the Hebrews at the time. So the word Anak is also the Hebrew word for giant. And so they've been located in history, but they disappeared. In the present time, of course, these things, you know, these we have no trace of these people, what happened to them. But
it's also worth noting that, like, these texts were actually not just sort of like describing these things metaphorically. There are actual, like, you know, measurement type descriptions of, you know, cubit measurement type descriptions of them. I mean, maybe you could say they're exaggerations. I don't know. You could obviously claim they're exaggerations, but I mean, they were giving measurements as well. They weren't just kind of like laissez-faire calling them giants or whatnot. Do you know what I mean?
So the Phoenicians considered the Rephaim, they called them the divine ones. It's possible that many of the gods of the ancient world come from the activity of these Nephilim, the fallen angels. So the myths of the ancient world, like Hercules and such. I've looked into how, for instance, in Morocco, in the Garden of Hesperides, there's a story of magical apples in a secret garden, and that the Hercules was sent to steal the magical apples from the Garden of Hesperides, and how that sacred tree was guarded by a snake. And how it's a different sort of idea of the Garden of Eden story, that these magical apples would grant immortality. Yeah. I can't remember what the name of the snake was. I think it was Hadron or something.
The name of the snake?
Name of the snake that guarded the Garden of Hesperides.
Sid. I actually had a snake growing up. Just a slight digress from that. You know, most people would have like a little teddy bear toy or something like that. I actually had a snake called Sid.
So the snake was called Ladon.
Oh, it wasn't Sid then. It was a shame.
And this snake guarded the apples of immortality from Hercules.
Well, it sounds like a very familiar story, yeah.
Swedenborg believed that mankind used to openly communicate with spirits, but lost the faculty in the time of Noah. This may explain why some of the Old Testament prophets had the ability to hear the voice of God, or even could see God, or had a, like, famously Moses saw the presence of God, but had to turn his back. What if we were more spiritually in contact, in tune in the old times, when we could, like, when these forces were more present, that we've sort of cut them off now?
But wasn't there also like more? Wasn't there more sort of like more shamanic type, psychedelic type rituals going on back then as well? Not saying that they're fake as such, but obviously it's not something that is practiced widely now as such. So perhaps that was another way that they were accessing information that we don't typically access now. Plus, also, as the civilization has developed, it may be that it has developed to the point where, you know, it's for the betterment to some degree of living life to not have the ability to kind of access as much information as is potentially out there in order to navigate the world in a coherent way and not be sort of freaked out by everything all the time. You know, they were living in a simpler time then, for sure. So perhaps, you know, the way that their senses were developed at that time were just a different level of development that we have. And that not necessarily worse, better or worse, you know. So we're coming up to 2 hours. Do you want to play? I don't know if you want to talk much more about that. I was thinking of just seeing we're coming up to 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, there's two possibilities. We can talk more about Swedenborg, or we can talk about procedural generation, or we can just talk about something totally different. So we can play a tune.
I don't know if you wanted to play a tune. I was going to talk a bit about the Nazca, not NASCAR, mummies they found, because they were quite interesting. And then, yeah, we can sort of go from there.
Okay, I'm gonna bang on this old classic, and I think it's about 4 minutes. I'm gonna smoke a fag, and I'll be right back. We'll see you guys later in 4 minutes or so.
4 minutes, all right.
Hang on, let's go.
Fucking hell, John, fucking hell, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, fucking hell, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, fucking hell, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, fucking hell, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John, fucking hell, John. What's the fucking box? Fucking hell, John. What's up down the shops? Fucking line, I need the mop. Fucking hell, John. It fucking never stops. Sweep the fucking floor. Fucking hell, John. Fucking the end of the door. Fucking hell, John. Do the fucking dusty. Give me the fucking backpack as a fucking prince of busting. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. The fucking overall. Fucking hell, John. This fuck only be calm. Fucking hell, John. We're on the fucking dock. Fucking hell, John. I'm fucking disinfect the fucking bar. Fucking hell, John. Let her fucking breathe in. Fucking hell, John. Fucking know that much I'm freezing. Fucking hell, John. Start the fucking fire. And don't forget to throw the fucking life that's in the dryer. Fucking hell, John. 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 Raise the fucking bed. Fucking hell, John. just fucking such a fucking slipping. Fucking get the time away. Fucking get me hearing aids. I'm not a fucking precious song. You have to fucking move me cause it's fucking feeling wrong. Get me in me fucking seat. Cause it's fucking time to eat. Your call is fucking. I'm gonna need me fucking teeth. My hand is fucking chewing me. It's only fucking tender. I've got me fucking dentures to the fucker in the blender. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. The fucking telly is a ride. The fucking tweet is alright. Fucking get a fucking stunner. Get all the fucking light away. You're all the colour. Now fucking fuck up out the back. Fucking don't I need to work. I'm fucking swing the fucking yard. The fucking hell, John. Where the fuck's your credit card? Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, fucking hell, John. Fucking hell, John.
Okay, you there, Future Shock? Okay, Future Shock's just taking a little.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh yeah, you're around, yeah.
Yeah, man. So what was that?
So what
Anyway?
do you talk about, bro?
We didn't introduce. Did you introduce the song? I can't remember. What was the song? Sorry.
We've heard it before. It's called "Fucking Hell, John" by Sandwich Pan.
Ah, of course, yes.
Yeah, that's a great song, but it's been on before. So that was "Fucking Hell, John" by Sandwich Pan.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I was just one of the things I've been looking into this week. It's kind of like a crazy thing I saw a little while ago because it actually sort of all kicked off in about 2015, and it's basically these Nazca, which is a region in Peru. These like 3 foot to 5 foot mummified, large-headed, like alien-looking forensic finds, which they dated back about 1800 years or so. Now, the interesting thing about them, because you just think, oh, they're probably fake. Nobody has been able to say they are 100%, fake or real. And this is the thing. So there's still ambiguity about it. And there's a lot of evidence suggesting they're at least like forensically genuine sort of thing. So the way it started was in 2015, a bunch of these mummified remains were found in a cave in Peru by a local grave digger, which were like 3 foot to 5 foot tall, similar to humans except tridactyl, which means they have like 3 fingers and 3 toes. So they were found as well in like very sort of like what do they call it? Diatomaceous earth. It's like very dry earth.
Yeah.
Basically. So there's an idea that they might not even be mummies, actually. They might not even be mummified. And some of them were found even with organs still inside the body. So there's like some real craziness that I'll get into in a sec. But if they're not real, if these things are fake, they're like one of the greatest forensic hoaxes like in the history of man. And they've flummoxed and been kind of like stated as unexplainable by some of the world's leading sort of forensic experts.
They've probably been described as hoaxes as well.
And probably being described. Well, I'll get to that in a bit because there's a specific thing that happened a bit later on with a Mexican artist, which caused a lot of confusion and which basically caused them to be sort of like globally transmitted as fake. But I'll sort of get to that in a sec. So basically, a bunch of like forensic heads from like Peruvian heads, the U.S. Navy, the Mexican Navy, they all like did their work on these bodies and couldn't decipher what they were. Basically, I mean, they even CAT scanned one of them and explained in the clip that it's actually pregnant, apparently, which is pretty fucking.
Do you want to share a clip? Do you want to share like?
Let me just share. I'll share one of the ones. 1 second. So, so yeah, so this one in the fetal position here is, I believe, one of the more what they call an M type. There's like 3 different types: a J, M, and what's the other one? S type. So these are the ones that were where I'm kind of pointing at. Let me just whoops.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me just kind of this is the one that looks kind of fake, right? It looks sort of like a pretty fake thing that's kind of out of ET or something like that.
A little bit, but yeah, I don't know.
So in terms of the ones that had like the CAT scan, if you just bear me a sec, because I've got quite a few links here. I hope this all works. It's a TikTok one. Just bear with me 1 second. So yeah, I mean, also like whilst I'm just setting that up, they've also detected inside them osmium and cadmium, which are metals that were only discovered in the 19th century. So remember, these things are dated back to like 1800 years ago. So that's quite interesting as well. What's that? 1 second. That's the wrong thing. Sorry, it's just messed up because of TikTok. So I'll try and share that again in a sec. But yeah, I mean, as weird as all this sounds, and as interesting as it sounds that no one's been able to kind of like identify them either way, the DNA testing side, to be fair, hasn't gone too well, sort of likely due to sort of human contamination. And like labs that have worked on a lot of these bodies, they've kind of come out with saying that there's like 30% DNA that they can't identify, but then there's also DNA from Myanmar. Myanmar, how you pronounce Myanmar?
Yeah, it's Burma. It's like it's next to Thailand. It's like a country next to Thailand. Burma,
yeah,
Myanmar.
And then Bonobo.
It doesn't make sense though, because that's thousands of miles away.
Well, this is the thing, right? And they've also found DNA from chimps and bonobo DNA as well. So it's a bit of a strange. It's a bit of a strange one in that respect. So, yeah, I mean, so what was I going to say?
I've just done a rudimentary Google search, and Google has told me that maybe, the Doomsday Clock. I'll remember. It's 89 seconds to midnight. It's the closest it's ever been to midnight, actually. That's from January 28, 2025.
Right, okay.
So that means that apparently that we are at the closest point to nuclear extinction. Because the Doomsday Clock was a big deal when I was a kid anyway, but I guess people have forgotten about it, so
for some reason, the TikTok video I had of the CAT scan of the allegedly pregnant one of these things, it just won't work. But another interesting thing, which I'll share now, is that around the same time period in the Nazca region and other regions of Peru around that area, they had a lot of cave art that depicted, if you remember, I said they had 3 fingers, 3 toes. A lot of cave art that depicted...
I keep thinking 3-finger white head on my beer. I like a 3-finger head, but... These were 3-fingered creatures, man.
Yeah, and it's now not letting me share anything for some reason. I don't know why it's not letting me share anything. Just bear with me 1 sec. Okay. There it is. He's done it a different way.
I try and rationalize things by putting them in perspective of a pint of beer.
That's a good perspective.
Grounded, you know.
But yeah, as you can see on this one here, for example, you've got like the three fingers and that there, and it's interesting stuff, man. See this fella here has got 3. I'm sort of clicking on the right hand side of the enlarged one.
Yeah, but it's like Mickey Mouse. How many fingers has Mickey Mouse got?
I know, but it's like if you can see. Well, okay, so we're saying that in the future. I mean, what we say, what's the equivalent? It's kind of like a false equivalency, though, surely, because you've got mummified remains, or
not necessarily. You're showing me an image of ancient people showing mummy with 3 fingers, but I'll show you Mickey Mouse. He has 4 fingers.
Right.
So, but did Mickey Mouse exist? Does he exist?
But we're not trying to argue that. We're not trying to sort of like draw a comparison between an archaeological
Mickey Mouse and Nazca lines. Why not?
we're not drawing we're not finding. It's a completely different kind of context, isn't it? Sort of thing.
No, but in a sense, no, because this is a picture of a character with 3 fingers, but Mickey Mouse is a character with 4 fingers.
So you think that
So it's like, is that depicting something? No, I mean, this isn't. I'm not being facetious, but I'm being serious. Just because something's depicted on art, it doesn't necessarily mean it's actually, you know, it may even be a symbolic representation of some kind of archetypal figure and such and such and such. Mickey Mouse, he's an archetypal figure with 4 fingers.
Well, listen,
he exists in our consciousness, but he doesn't exist. He wasn't real.
So what I'm doing is I'm just presenting something that I find interesting, and what I find interesting is that, you know, they discovered these remains that are dated back to the time where they had a lot of cave art, which had things that look.
Yeah, but you're not getting the point, though. I'm bringing up like an equivalency, though. So what I'm trying to say to you, Future Shock, is this: that might not be a real creature. It could be just. That's what I'm saying. This is like a discussion. So it's like.
So I never said at any point that it was a real creature. I'm just saying.
No, but like, could it be? No, what I'm trying to say is, could it be some kind of archetypal figure, like like Father Christmas? I mean, like Mickey Mouse. It's like there's a lot. You'd be surprised, actually, Future Shock. There's a lot of like characters who would appear. Like, imagine Christmas cards. Like, imagine like someone 10,000 years in the future. Somehow they find some plastic sealed Christmas cards. And they look and they're trying to find out about our civilization, but all they have is Christmas cards. So what conclusions would they draw about our world? So they would like, we're all happy, we all love each other, all giving gifts, and there's this big red guy who can fly. Do you get what I'm trying to say, Rob? It's like it's an equivalency, because it's like I would say that would, my interpretation of this is it's a folk figure. It's not necessarily a picture of an alien, but it could be some kind of like Father Christmas, like some kind of cultural like folk figure.
I don't even think it's necessarily an alien, but like the interest is that I guess the reason that I find it a bit of a false equivalency is that we're trying to figure out what these mummified remains are, and nobody's been able.
Or what they're not, as well.
What they are, what they're not. And nobody has been able to figure that out yet. Yet we do have things like I've got on the screen here, which depict, you know, similar looking beings. Now, I'm not trying to say that this is absolute. This is obviously not absolute proof of anything.
It doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. It's just a talking point. But it's like, yeah, but were they real? These 3-fingered creatures?
Well, this is the thing, and the question is, why are they all over like these areas of Peru where there's you know, in Nazca and pulpy regions of Peru, dating back to the same time the mummies are dating back to. So you know,
I know. All right. Well, listen. There is a theory about that. Do you want to know what I've heard about that? You know, the Nazca lines. Okay, so the Nazca lines are these. Well, they're only visible from hundreds of feet.
Yeah.
In the air. Okay, yeah. And so they go for how long? Like kilometers in some cases.
Yeah, literally miles. Literally, yeah.
Miles. Yeah. And they trade, but from the ground, you cannot recognize that they're representations of figures. I mean, what are the Nazca lines? What are the shapes that are formed?
Nazca lines. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it might be an idea to put on a picture of Nazca lines to show you what they are, because.
Let me see if I've got. Let me just do a little.
Well, my understanding of it is that there are figures that are related to birds and hunting. So there's like representations of birds and of different kind of hunting animals, along with other things.
Yeah, you got these kind of like.
Am I right? I mean, I know because I've seen it a bit.
Yeah. No, we can see them here. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to show? Can you put them up?
Can you see? Can you see
them?
Yeah. You know, yeah.
So there's some kind of weird spider thing. There's a bird. Yeah.
There's like a sort of monkeyish type thing, whatever that is.
Creatures. Yeah, they're animals. They're things that would have lived in the forest and such. They're only visible from 300 feet in the air, right? Yeah. Yeah. So what I've heard about that is that it was part of an initiation, that they actually had balloon technology that the ancient Mesoamericans could actually had well, very easy technology really to float a balloon. You just need fire, and you heat up the air, and then you have a balloon full of warm air which rises. So what I heard, and this is just my understanding of it, is that these Nazca lines were an initiatory site where potentially young people in the tribe would be taken on a balloon, right? And they would be shown these animals and these shapes and these things, and they would be kind of like instructed that this is a monkey, this you can hunt this monkey, this is a bird. I don't know, I'm not obviously Mesoamerican, but that's one possible explanation for the Nazca lines, is that they were part of a ritualistic initiatory site where the Mesoamericans had technology where they'd send up air balloons, and the person in that balloon would symbolically go into heaven because he'd be sent into the sky. But while there, he would see this story told to him through the Nazca lines through some kind of elder who had the understanding of the lines and knew the story that it was telling. Does that make sense to you?
If they had that technology, yeah, that's an explanation.
Well, it's simple. I mean, balloon, what do you need to make a hot air balloon? Fire and canvas. So it's a very simple technology, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, they could do it. They could definitely do it for
Yeah,
sure.
I know.
I mean, it could
So,
be
I like that explanation, but you know,
I mean, it could
obviously
be an
we don't
Occam's
know.
razor situation. I mean, like, that is a simpler explanation than, you know, oh, they did it for aliens kind of thing. What is it?
Well, I suppose it's like the I don't know. It's like the historic. It's like whatever you might call it, anthropological explanation.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I
look,
mean?
so there was so tied in with this story, which is quite interesting. Like the regional language is Kalki. So the regional language that is spoken in the Nazca kind of pulpit area is called Kalki, and there's a Frenchman who's an explorer called Theo Armin. Now, again, this is kind of like, this may be a bit more of a hearsay than a sort of conclusive evidence thing, but he apparently speaks Kalki, and he says that the name of the region where these mummified remains were found, the name, when translated from Kalki, the regional language, it means the lab for insemination and cloning. Can you believe? So whether you want to believe that to be true or not,
No, hang on. Huh? You need to exercise some. Yeah, no,
it's
obviously
obviously
not.
like unverified, unverifiable stuff.
I mean, what's a lab though? A lab is a modern sort of thing, isn't it? So you got what's that? That's the translation of what the site's called.
So not the actual. So like apparently like this sort of region. I don't know, like whether you would relate it to maybe like a sort of like a county type area type just the region in Nazca.
Yeah. Who says that?
This is Theo Armin, who's a French explorer who's apparently been around the area many years, who's explored around the area many years. So yeah. Look, honestly, it sounds all very ostentatious, but I just thought it was quite an interesting find, really. And the reason, one of the reasons, or the main reason,
I can't find him. Theo Armin, can you? Theo.
I'm not sure how to spell it. Sorry, I've only heard about it, so I'm not. I haven't really looked too deep into his work.
Okay.
But, so yeah, they were kind of basically touted as fake in the news because there's this little kind of sort of mix up in 2023. They were sort of being brought by the Peruvian government to the Congress of Mexico, and at the same time there was a Mexican artist called Manuel Caseros, possibly chocolate tequila drinking artist. I don't know, that's just speculation. Who was making fake versions of these things, and he was actually apprehended at the Peruvian airport with the fake ones because the police thought he was nicking the legitimate ones. This story was then picked up by Reuters, and it was kind of like beamed around the world, and they had footage of the guy going, no, they're fake, because obviously he's protesting his innocence, isn't he? And so that image and the sort of like the quote of Manuel Caseros saying it's fake was kind of put forward as the reasoning for these things being fake. But it's one of those things where why don't people put a bit more money into it and prove it either way? I mean, if you've had 4 verified highly experienced forensic experts who haven't been able to kind of say what these things are, why doesn't someone come in and just chuck a bit more money at it and really just sort of get it sorted out and get it like finally, yay or nay, what the fuck is going on? Because you just need just put a bit more money into it. Like, I don't know. There's so many things like this around the world that I think suffer from a lack of investment, a lack of interest, and then it just leads to everyone speculating and debating. And we want to understand things at the end of the day. We want to know for sure what these things are. We want to know for sure what X, Y, and Z is. And a lot of these archaeology seems to be a space where there's just not a lot of money chucked into it. It's protected as well, especially if you look at Egypt and like how sort of more traditional older Egyptologists, they're very protective of, because they've had like sort of control over the narrative for so long. Where you've got people like new people coming in who've got more access to information who don't necessarily have the credentials, they kind of they try to kind of like sabotage them and stuff like this. So when really like everyone should just be collaborating and people putting as much money and thought together into looking into these things rather than just sort of fighting about them sort of thing. But hey, that's human fucking nature, isn't it, to be honest with you? But it's interesting stuff for me.
Okay, so what do you think?
What do I think? Well, I think the most interesting thing is you've had 4 experts who haven't been able to say that they're fake, and then they found.
Well, hang on, that's a fallacy. Don't defer to authority.
Well, I mean, I
never defer to authority.
But in this instance, what could I defer to?
Yeah, but those experts would be called charlatans or quacks by someone else. So that's why you don't necessarily believe in authority, because there's no such thing as authority really, because it can all be argued. But I mean, what's the name of the authorities of these people who checked the site out?
So there was John McDowell, who's fellow of the British Science Academy. There was Dr. David Ruiz, basically the Peruvian equivalent of him. Jim Caruso, who's the chief medical examiner of Denver, and the head of the Mexican Navy Forensics Department, Dr. Jose Salze. So these are the guys.
Okay, yeah. So actually, that guy John McDowell's quite busy. So 3 months ago, he's on a YouTube channel. So he's actually still active.
Yeah, he just won the Grand Wall Award or something like that.
Josh McDowell?
John, I think it is. John?
No, I've got Josh McDowell, but I don't know. Okay.
Pretty sure it's John McDowell. But yeah, look, listen, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that there could have been, they may not necessarily have been aliens from other other planets or whatnot. It could have just been a different kind of hominid. It could have just been a different type of human that was around at that time. It could have been
a picture of Father Christmas.
Or they could be fake. They could be like these.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're fake. I'm not saying that.
Well, how does Father Christmas relate to these?
I've explained it, that what those images are. They're like a cultural icon or an archetype that exists for that people, but it could be unreal. There could be like fantastical creatures.
They could be.
Just because they don't exist, it doesn't mean they're not part of the cultural landscape and that's part of their ritualistic religion for thousands of years. See what I mean? I'm trying to make the equivalency that if people found Christmas cards, they would think, "Who's Father Christmas? He looks like a jolly red fellow. Everyone must have been." You see what I mean? Trying to make that.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like a cultural thing. So even though those things didn't literally exist, wherever they might be, I don't know. The 3-fingered creatures, they could have. It's more interesting to consider that they were somehow like a bogeyman, or there was something implanted in that culture as something they believed existed.
So then,
didn't necessarily exist.
So then, following on from that, do you think that these things that were discovered were just somebody's attempt to kind of like pay homage to that in some way? Like if someone would sort of fake remains of Santa Claus?
No, it's not that. No, it isn't. That's not what I'm saying. What I said is a ritualistic site. It's like a story thing for the initiation. That's what I explained, remember, about the balloons.
No, I understand about that.
It doesn't mean it's the same with the Sumerians. It's the same with the Anunnaki and the pictures of the reptilian women, right? We know that, right? Anunnaki.
Yeah.
The so-called the images of reptilian women with like elongated heads, but they were pregnant. That doesn't necessarily mean that existed. It just means that they believe those people were made to believe it existed, which is even more interesting in a way.
But okay, yeah, I get that aspect of it, and I do agree with that aspect of it. But I just feel there's an extra element. There's an extra.
Why do they believe that exists? Why is that character or that supernatural being part of their cultural milieu? You know, like Father Christmas. I'm not being facetious by saying Father Christmas, but I'm just trying to see, just because what I'm saying has some validity. It's like we have archetypes that we don't necessarily believe exist, but like children believe in the Tooth Fairy, Father Christmas, etc. These cultures would have had similar kind of things to that.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean those creatures existed as aliens.
Okay, so I do that. Within all of what you just said, I definitely agree with, and I totally see your point. But my point is
just my point exactly. That's just like maybe that's what it is, you know.
My sort of addition to that would be, but we do have this additional element of these things that we don't know if they are fake or not. And if they are fake, what you're saying is probably true, right?
No, I'm not even saying they're fake. I'm not even saying that.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying it's fake. They obviously are real. They're obviously real people. The Peruvians, the Nazca lines, that's a real thing. That isn't. I don't believe it's like some modern fake. Okay, I don't actually think that. I think it's a traditional, genuine part of this culture, of this Peruvian Mesoamerican culture that.
So do you think that
recording their folklore? Should we say, right?
Another theory. So tying in with what you're saying actually closely, another theory for what these finds are, the forensic finds are. The fossils, whatever you want to call the mummies, whatever you want to call them. Another theory is that they're not actually real people. They're actually sort of like homages.
Yeah, no, that's true. Okay, well, that's true. That's possibly that were they real people? No, they were just like some kind of ritualistic, creation. Who knows? Maybe they ritualistically sacrificed this doll they created because they're described as dolls, right?
What do you mean? So
they're described as dolls. These mummies, they're described as mummies or dolls. Yeah.
I mean, they're just, as far as I'm aware, they were described as mummies. I don't know about dolls.
Yeah, I've read a thing that they could be described as dolls as well, but they're made of, like you said. Apparently, there's like strange, like heavy elements and things. Cadmium.
There's little elements like that just make it a bit weird. I mean, the whole thing's quite weird anyway, but to detect these things that were only discovered in the 19th century. I mean, I guess what you could also say to that as well, it does the sort of fakeness of them, if they are fake, doesn't necessarily need to be recently faked. They could be faked back 1800 years ago.
Okay, well, Reuters put an article out, and scientists assert alien mummies in Peru are really dolls made from earthly bones. So this is like from last year. Mm-hmm. So I think you said that they were smuggling these things out of Peru airport.
Yeah, so there was like I said, there was the guy who was actually making fake ones, and they thought that he was smuggling the real ones out. So that's kind of it all.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 small specimens were described as humanoid dolls by experts at a press conference in Lima, likely fashioned from both human and animal parts.
Yeah.
Separate 3-fingered hand believed to be from Peru's Nazca is also analyzed, but ruling out connection to alien life. According to the forensic examination, they're not extraterrestrials. They're dolls made from animal bones from this planet, joined together with modern glue, which is a bit weird. Okay, so they were the fake ones.
Yeah. Those are does it mention in the story that you're looking at the guy's name, Manuel Caceros? Anywhere? Does it mention that?
Flavio Estrada. He's an archaeologist with Peru's Institute for Legal Medicine and Forensic Sciences.
Okay.
Yeah. So
there's definitely been fake ones because the apparent alleged real ones, the grave diggers who found them are trying to sell them for like 7 figures. for like literally 1 million, 2 million, whatever. So there's obviously, you know, there's money to be made from these things. So hence people fake them. Yeah. Yeah, who knows, man? It could just be. It could be that there was a bunch of aliens that were actually in a lab inseminating and creating beings that evolved to what we are right now. I don't know, and they could be labeled as gods and then pictographed on the cave walls. But yes, I totally get the point that just because things are on cave art, you know, on the walls of caves, doesn't mean that there's any kind of proof that they're real or whatever. I mean, there's obviously lots of things that's on cave art that isn't real. So it's just an interesting timeline equivalency.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, I think we'll wrap it up. Okay, about there. So,
yeah, we've done 2.5 hours. We've done pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done 2.5 hours. So,
I think I will go and eat. I'll definitely need to go and eat before hitting the hay later. What are you doing? You going to get some late dinner, or are you done?
I think I'll go for a walk at night in the nature reserve or something. Just like, because it's such a nice evening. Yeah.
Yeah, I literally did that yesterday. Actually, I went for a walk. I just kind of wanted to look up around sort of Crouch End, Hornsey area, and see a little bit where I used to go, see what had changed and whatnot. I ended up walking for about an hour, like to the point where like my foot actually hurt. Like, but I had also been like running at the gym before that. But anyway, yeah. So I just had a little walk around. It was a really nice evening. Just didn't want to stay in. You know, I get that feeling that you probably have that feeling now that you don't want to stay in now. You want to go out. You just want to get out of the house, sort of thing. That's kind of what I was thinking last night. Yeah. But do you know what it was? Do you know what struck me as being kind of sad though? I walked around all Crouch End, Hornsey. I walked up Turnpike Lane. I walked around Hornsey. I walked up Middle Lane. I walked a bit around Crouch End, back down the lane that joins back on. I forget its name. I saw many bars. This is Saturday night, like 10:15 in the evening. It should be bustling, right? That should be kind of like peak time, like 10 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday night. Every bar I went to was like, at best, a third full. A lot of them just 2-3 people, 10 people. It's kind of sad to see, you know. There's like this isn't a Tuesday night. It was a Saturday night, and even the bar. I was gonna have a little Guinness at the end of it all, so I decided to go to this bar at the end of my route, and I knew it shut at 12. I got there at 10:30, and it was shutting because there was no one there. And it's sad, man. It's sad the way, you know, times have changed.
It was shutting at 10:30.
It was shutting it was about 10:35.
Jesus. Where was that? In Crouch End City Centre? I know Crouch End well, you know, back in the day. But
So this was kind of more Turnpike Lane end of Hornsey, towards Turnpike Lane tube station. So I'd made it back from kind of Crouch End and Hornsey towards where I live. So I was just going to stop off there. I thought, fuck it, I'll just have a little Guinness at the end of it. I've walked for a fucking hour. Do you know what I mean? I'll have a Guinness and just sit and enjoy the end of the night. And yeah, the place was shut basically. And I was like, that's just because nobody was in there.
So was there no one in town on Saturday night in Crouch End?
So, like, I saw about, say, 10 or 12 different bars around Crouch End and Hornsey, and not any of them were full, or what you would call bustling, busy, bristling, whatever you want to say. It was like at best a third full. Most of them were a quarter, a fifth full, hardly anyone in, empty. Kind of sad on a Saturday night. Do you know what I mean?
No one can afford to go out. It's only old people can go out now, man. Huh.
This is it.
Seriously, no, it's the same everywhere. It's the same in every town. It's like that's why Wetherspoons is full of old people and it's the busiest place in town, because, I mean, those people that can go out, the only ones that actually have like enough liquid to be alcoholics is old people. Young people can't afford to actually go out on the piss, and it's just the facts. It's like I've seen it so many times. Like all the places where I come from, where I used to hang out, used to be like metal clubs and rock clubs and things, and like the Barge, which is amazing, like a pub, which is a metal pub. It's like it used to be all young people, but there's like no one in there. It's just old people. It's so freaky because young people just can't go out. That's why, you know.
It's the same around here. I mean, I was actually planning, before I planned to go to the pub that was shut early, I planned to go to another one that I hadn't been to for ages, and I just had this feeling about it. I was like, let me just check, and because I couldn't remember the closing time. I thought if it's 11, I can't be bothered because you'd have to drink like quick or whatever. And I just checked it on my phone, and it had actually shut down, so it wasn't even in existence anymore. So I was like, Jesus Christ. So then I went to the other one, and that was shut. And you're right. The only other bar, the busiest bar in this area all the time is Wetherspoons. And and it's a horrible place. And that's not me dissing Wetherspoons in general, because there are some good Wetherspoons out there, but this one isn't. And yeah, it ain't great, but it's full. And that's where everyone goes, because it's obviously, you know, you £2 for some pints. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, man. Wetherspoons is always a good spot for well, I wasn't going to say, but yeah, interesting characters. There's always something crazy in the street outside, or some kind of people ranting about, oh my god, you know, oh, I have so much pain. There's always like someone having a breakdown outside Wetherspoons. Always.
Oh, yeah, guarantee it. Yeah.
Guarantee, yeah.
The one outside Liverpool Street Station is all right. That one that's a bit more like well presented, you know, it's something hall. It's called something hall.
Yeah, that one, the Masked Haunt. Yeah,
it's not too bad. It's got
that Wetherspoons. Gosh,
yeah,
because we went there for your birthday one time, right? Yeah, I remember about 10 years ago.
Yeah, we started there. We got everyone there, gathered everybody there, sort of thing, and then went on from there. Yeah, I remember.
We stayed in Liverpool Street. Remember?
Yeah, I guess a good memory. Yeah, we went to Dirty Dick's as well, and we should just clarify.
Is that still there?
That is still there. Yeah. That is just a
normal dirty
way. That's not just for anyone listening. That's not some kind of sort of strip club for yeah. It's just a normal pub. But yeah, that's still there. But the thing, I suppose, there's a bit more money in that area, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? So these places, I suppose, they've got a bit more clientele, but places like here where I am, I'm a bit more outside of London, sort of thing. I am technically, North London, but this isn't inner city stuff. So people, it's hard times.
Okay, so where's your nearest Wetherspoons?
The one I just sort of described to you, it's just near Wood Green Tube Station. It's called Spout.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the one I was going to go to used to be a Wetherspoons. I mean, this is like, talk about. So basically, it was taken over. They changed it from being a Wetherspoons, but just to a normal pub. But they didn't change anything about the place, so it still looked like a Wetherspoons, smelt like a Wetherspoons, had the decor of a Wetherspoons, had the toilets of a Wetherspoons, all the furniture of a Wetherspoons, but the prices of a central London pub. And it's like the most, and now it's empty all the time. It's just like the stupidest. Like, if you're gonna stop it being a Wetherspoons, at least give it a lick of paint.
It's a bit worst of all worlds, really. No one's favorite pub is Wetherspoons, really, is it? It's like,
it's more of a functional pub, I find. Like, because if I go out to a drum and bass rave, there's always a Spoons near the venue. You always pop in there for a few cheeky quick shots or something like that to get you going before the rave. So it always had that kind of functional aspect to it. Because obviously you go in a club and everything's like ridiculous prices. So, so it has its place. But yeah, it was just sad, man. It's just like every single frigging pub and bar I walked past, I was like, empty, 3 people. And it's just, yeah, man. What happened to nightlife in North London? Like, seriously. Or across London.
okay, bro. So on that note,
let's wrap it up there, man. It's been a fun one, as usual. Good bit of debate, good bit of information. I hope people have enjoyed listening to all the craziness that we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea, right? Because, I mean, if you don't sort of check the levels of insanity, then how can you know you're sane? So, I mean, it's like a self diagnostic tool, really. I think it helps to just like be exposed to as much nonsense as possible. Then you know what's really true, because like it's the relief, the like contrast of nonsense combined with compared to the truth.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It's like one of them things. So it's like I think it's just like a sort of digest of nonsense, and we just see what makes sense.
There's
But,
a great
yeah.
filtering effect, I think. Like it allows you to sort of filter things and like see things a bit more clearly. And a lot of the time, the things that you know, things are a bit upside down. So it's important to get into the weeds of these things like we do, and try and just sort of like find out what's the garbage and you know what's the gold, I suppose.
Yeah, the shit and the shine and the garbage and gold. So yeah, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's all there. If you just open your eyes, you know.
So yeah, cheers to everyone who's been listening. I know we've got quite a few people listening on X, so you know, subscribe to your at J Truthspoon for more updates on when we're going to be
Truthspoon,
live.
yeah. Get me on Truthspoon, truthspoon.com, 40 portal.
Yeah, I'm Future DMB UK on X, and our channel here on YouTube is Truth Shock. So yeah, give us a like and a subscribe. It does help grow the channel. You know, I really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll be back. We will put an announcement when we're back. We might be back with the show in midweek. If not, it'll be same time next Sunday, I think.
Yeah, trying to go midweek, I think, because I think Sundays is a bit dry. Do you know what I mean? We did a lot better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was on Wednesday last time. It was a really good night. Yeah. Sundays is dry though.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays have been a bit better recently. So
yeah, Sunday's a dry one. Yeah,
the show will be moving to that.
So
time.
maybe we'll see. Yeah. But yeah,
if you look, you know, subscribe to our socials, you'll see us announcing, and also we'll be we're always sharing interesting stories and information as well. So yeah, come check us out, and yeah, cheers. I'm gonna go eat some crumpets now. So
get your crumpet, bro. Yeah, you got butter, man.
I got crumpets. Oh, they're gonna be hot.
If you ain't got butter, I mean, you ain't got crumpets. You got butter.
No. Of course. I mean, it's just
nice. Bang it, man.
Cool, man. All right.
Take care, bro. And everyone, just keep on tumbling, man. Because what else can you do?
Speak to you soon, man. See you later.
Ciao.